Get started. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for July 17, 2025 is now in session. I'm Joey Hargis, the Metro Zoning Administrator, and I'll be presenting the cases for review in today's public hearing. The board would ask at this time, if you would please put your phones on silent or vibrate so as not to interrupt today's proceedings. We would appreciate it. The board will go through all cases set on the agenda today, and then we do have a couple cases I'll talk about in just a moment. But all other cases that are on the agenda today will be heard in the order which you see on the agenda. The board is vested to act on the powers before it under Section 1740-180 of the Metro Code of Law. The code requires that you have 4 affirmative votes to grant your application. I've got 5 members present today. I promise I have 5. There he is. Didn't see you over there, Ross. You must have 4 out of these 5 members vote in favor of your case to be approved. What happens if I don't get all 4 votes? In an instance where you fail to achieve 4 votes today in the affirmative, and I don't mean four votes against your case. So let's say we have a motion to approve your case and the vote is 3-2 or 2-3. That's what could happen today. Your case will remain on our agenda for the next 30 days. We will have 1 meeting in the next 30 days. That is the August 7th meeting. It'll be in this room as well at 1 p.m. The members who participated are allowed to change their vote, should they wish to. The 2 members who are not present today can watch what happens today, become eligible, and then vote on the case on August 7th. We have a case like that today. It's the first thing on the agenda, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So again, after that August 7th meeting, if you're still stuck on 3 affirmative or 2 affirmative and you're still tied up, as we say, your vote will be, your case will be denied by operation of law for failure to receive 4 affirmative votes within 30 days of this public hearing. If you are approved today, be sure to follow up with the Codes Department beginning on Monday. Finish up any other permitted related items or approvals that you need to seek in regards to your permit. And we can help you with that in our offices beginning on Monday. The board does allow Metro Council members now in its rules to come speak. I know I have 1 council member present. Do I have any other council members present today? No, I saw, all right, Ms. Van Reese, saw you. So if you'd like at this time to come forward and speak on a case, we do have, for the purposes of the council member's testimony, we'll let the record reflect that the public hearing for just her comments and responses to your questions and answers are open and would be considered part of the record in the case. So, council member, if you'd like to come in, I'll yield the table to you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargis, and good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for your service. Emily Benedict, Metro Council District 7. I think all of you know me. If not, I hope that you do. I have 3 cases, or there are 3 cases from District 7 on the docket today. The very first one, as Mr. Hargis described, is tied up that did not receive 4 votes one way or the other last time. And I had sent an email to you prior to the meeting, but I wasn't able to be here last month. I am probably one of the most pro-housing council members in the city on the body, and I am all for adding additional housing wherever it makes good sense. Unfortunately, this is a location where I don't believe it makes good sense. That is in the middle, there is a floodway directly through the middle of the parcel. And the request is to move the building footprint to the front of the parcel. That might make sense in a more urban area, closer to, for instance, Gallatin Pike. In this area, back deeper in the neighborhood, it doesn't fit, in my opinion. And I'm not necessarily somebody that says, hey, character really matters. But in this case, it's not so much the character that matters to me. It's that the FEMA flood maps continue to get larger. As we we have more climate change, as we have, the most recent map that came out has the floodways and flood zones even wider than what they were in the past. It's really important to me that we don't build housing in the floodway, in flood zones, that we're building in other locations. So I believe there's one person who may be able to vote on that today. I would ask that you vote against that case. The next case is on the fourth page. It's case 2025-062. I believe it's on consent, and I am supportive of this. It's for a daycare, a special exception for a daycare. It's across the street from Stratford High School, so a great spot for kids to, in my opinion, to be great. And the applicant has met with the neighbors and has received a very positive response from them, also engaged me early in the process. The final case that is in District 7 is the final case on your docket. That is that's case 2025-070. This is something I believe Mr. Hargis will explain in detail that his department had approved, and it was built, and then it was found to not be in compliance. I'm going to let him describe that a little bit better. But so it's taller than what it should be. His department, though, did allow the building to take place, advised the owner to build as they did, later found out that it was built taller than what the law allows. Rather than tear it down, in my opinion, it makes sense to leave it there. It's shorter than the house in the front, so in my opinion, it fits. The parcel is also very large, so I would ask that you approve that request there for the very last item on the agenda. I have to be back in the district at 2:30, and with traffic around here, I'm probably going to need to leave about 2, but I'm going to stick around as long as I can, and I appreciate your attention to all three of these matters. Thank you.
For the record, Mr. Chairman, I might have messed up the school board clock up there on the wall, so we're going to use ours. Thankfully, my children are adults and can't be held in detention for their dad's bad actions, so I'll get that fixed before we go home today. All right. Couple preliminary announcements. Let me cover those if you may. The first case I would like to talk about on a preliminary announcement is a case on the second page, the top of page 2. Members, this is case 2025-47. Mr. Frank Hodges appealed an item A appeal of my determination regarding the front facade of a home. We had a hearing on this. The builder in the case contacted me last week. They're pulling their construction plans, which in turn leads me to cancel their permit, which makes Mr. Hodges' appeal moot. I've talked to Mr. Hodges' counsel, which has to be Mrs. Hodges, and she's in agreement that the case is moot, so we've withdrawn the case. The builder in the case there at 4601 General Lowry Drive, or 1200, I think, Harding's the other case, they'll have to file for a brand new permit and start over. So that case, if you're here for case 47, that case is not heard today. And let me see if I have any other. I don't have any other preliminary announcements as far as cases not going to be heard today. The Councilmember Benedict talked about the Board of Zoning Appeals has a consent agenda. Consent agenda is the agenda that the chair reviews all the cases on today's record, and if in his opinion the applicant has met the criteria for the application which they've requested, be it a special exception or a variance, he recommends that case to the members of the board. If you are here in opposition and only opposition to any of these cases I'm about to call, raise your hand, please. What will happen is we'll pull that case off consent and we'll hear the case in its place on the agenda today. So again, I'll call first for opposition on the following cases. The first case recommended for the consent agenda is 2025-52. New Leaf School at 374 Hicks Road has requesting a special exception for the extension of daycare on a residential zone parcel in R20. Are there any parties present? Case 52 in opposition. Okay, we do have members opposed, so we will hear that case in its regular order. The next case recommended for the consent agenda is case 2025-56. Mr. James Key, 108B Rolling Mill Road, requesting a variance in rear setback to construct a detached carport. Are there any parties present on case 56 in opposition? Mr. Chairman, let the record reflect there are none. The next case recommended for the consent agenda is case 2025-59, Ms. Barbara Moore at 508 Cunniff Parkway, a special exception to allow for home daycare. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 59 on Cunniff Parkway? Mr. Chairman, seeing none. The next case recommended for consent is case 2025-61, Kevin and Courtney Christian at 325 Greenway Avenue, a variance in street setbacks to allow the legal use of a fence constructed. Are there any parties in opposition to case 61 on Greenway Avenue? Okay, Mr. Chairman, seeing none. The next case recommended for your consent agenda is case 2025-62. Wanda Barr Stewart is the owner of the property at 1902 Pinehurst, requesting a special exception for daycare, home daycare. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 2025-62 on Pinehurst Drive? Mr. Chairman, let the record reflect there are none. Oh, is there? No, sir. He's an applicant for a case that's not on the consent agenda. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, the next case recommended for the consent agenda is case 2025-66. Mr. Alex Crawl, Robert Geist, the owner of the property at 4850 Buena Vista Pike, or Buena Vista Pike if you're from Nashville, requesting a variance in street setbacks for construction of a new single-family residence. Are there any parties in opposition to case 66 on Buena Vista? Mr. Chairman, seeing none. Next case recommended for consent is case 2025-67, Gerald Finley and Gerald Finley Inter Vivos Trust. The owner is 612 Hume Street, requesting a variance for the fence height and street setbacks in R6A. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 67, case 612 Hume? Mr. Chairman, seeing none. Consequently, the next case is the adjoining property at 2025-68, the case number, Chris Marconcini, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, at 614 Hume Street Trust, the owner, for the property at 614 Hume Street, requesting variance for height and setbacks for a fence constructed. Any parties present in opposition to case 68? Mr. Chairman, let the record reflect none. Just recapping your consent agenda, the following items have been recommended by you on the consent agenda. Case 2025-56, case 2025-59, case 2025-61, case 2025-62, case 2025-66, case 2025-67, case 2025-68. Mr. Chairman, that is your consent agenda. And guys, you'll have to, I think there's a button there to. Yeah, be sure to hit the mic there.
Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Okay, what does that mean? If you were here for cases 56, 59, 61, 62, 66, 67, and 68, your cases have been approved. You are free to go. I will extend, as always, an invitation to hang out with the rest of us for the next few hours if you'd like to look at their cases. Again, just a reminder to follow up with the codes department beginning on Monday to finish up your permits. Okay, Mr. Chairman, just kind of refreshing, we'll go back to the first item on the agenda as those folks depart. Mr. Chairman, on the first item on the agenda that council members spoke about was case 2025-42, Sway Estates, the appellant and owner of the property at 1295 Sunnymead Drive. They were requesting a variance in the street setback requirements in RS 75 to construct a new single-family house. We have a motion on the table to approve a 6-foot variance by Mr. Bradford, seconded by Ms. Johnson. The vote tallies are Mr. Bradford, Ms. Johnson, Mr. Ransom, who is not present today. We had 2 votes in opposition, Ms. Karpanek and Ms. Davis. Just checking for the record, none of you 5 wish to change your vote to this? Okay. And those votes will stand. Mr. Cole was not present and is not present today, so he will not be eligible. Mr. Pepper, you are present today. Have you reviewed the record in this case?
I have.
And if so, do you wish to participate?
I do. I vote in favor of the motion.
Okay. Mr. Pepper is signified as voting in favor of the motion. With his vote, Sway Estates has achieved 4 affirmative votes within 30 days of the public hearing, and case 2025-42 is approved for a 6-foot variance. They had originally asked for a 12-foot street setback variance off the requirement, but they were approved for 6. So we'll enter in an order appropriate to that. So if you're here for that case has been approved. So our first case on public hearing today will be case 2025-52. New Leaf School is the appellant. Greater Nashville Unitarian Universalist Congregation is the owner of the property at 374 Hicks Road. New Leaf School is requesting a special exception to allow an extension of the daycare use previously approved by this board on a residential zone district in R20. I know the applicant is present. If the applicant would come forward this time, have a seat to my right at the table, along with any persons in support that she would like to allow. Let me just go over for everybody in the room kind of the process for this. After I somehow messed up the school board's clock there on the wall, just to the right of Miss Davis is a clock that we will keep time for this hearing. Each side in this case, both those people in support and people in opposition, will have a total amongst all of them for 10 minutes per side. Now, reminder, that is 10 minutes per side, not per speaker. So if there are multiple speakers both for the appellant or against the appellant, be sure to divide your time accordingly. I will keep track of that clock. It is right on the ledge, just where you'll be sitting right in front of you. Members, I know that's hard for you to see, but I'll keep track of it and kind of let folks know where they stand. I'll get that set up here in just a minute. Procedure first is for me to go forward, show you some photographs that I took of the site, discuss the case, and then I'll turn it over to the appellant for the applicant in this case. Again, you'll have 10 minutes to present your case. You will have a period allowed to you under the board's rules to rebut testimony of opposition. But you have to use that test, that comes out of your 10-minute bank there. So be sure to save yourself some time for 10 minutes. Opposition, just a reminder, you get 1 chance to talk to this board. You don't get a rebuttal of the rebuttal. So your opportunity to speak will come after those parties in support. And let me just pull up our presentation. We'll get started in that case. Okay, the subject property is located on Hicks at 374 Hicks Road. The board previously in 2023, get my notes here. I'll pull up one other piece of information to supplement what I'm going to talk about. But, The applicant, that time period has expired that the board approved for, and the applicant came back to our office seeking to reapply for an additional 2-year extension. The only photograph I've got of this site, and I'll pull up aerial photos should both sides of this case wish to show those. I'll have those up on the screen too for you here in just a minute. But this is a view of the existing church. The school's uses a portion of this building and a building to the rear of the campus, as well as property at the back of this parcel. But that's the extent of my portion. Let me get that clock set up for the applicant, and then I'll turn it over to her. Thanks. Apologies for that. Where I was sitting over there, it was messing with that, the clock I messed with. So with that, applicant, if you would please, and for any parties that come before the board today, when you do address the board, give us your name and address of where you're located, and then speak to the thing. Just one reminder for all parties, the clock only runs for, after you get done introducing yourself, I'll start the clock. If the board stops to ask you a question, I'll pause the clock, let you answer the question, and then once you get back into testifying, we'll start that clock back up. So, all right, with that, I'll turn it over to you, miss. If you would, identify yourself and make your presentation to the board.
Yeah, ma'am, we'd make sure the light's on.
The light is now on. Can you hear me? All right. My name is Elena Harvey, and I'm the director of A New Leaf. I live at 4341 Pecan Valley Road, 37218.
I'm Reverend Denise Couch. I live at 3450 Crest Ridge Drive at 37204, and I serve as the minister of the congregation that meets at 374 Hicks Road and is also the owner of that property.
So first, I want to say good afternoon, members of the BZA, and thank you for your continued service. We are here today with a few of our parents in attendance to request a 2-year extension to our special exemption to allow us to continue providing early education and care to our families at the property of the Greater Nashville Unitarian Universalist Congregation. This extension is essential as we work to develop our permanent home at the Overall Creek Arboretum located at 7544 Charlotte Pike. Last year, you generously granted us more time than we initially requested, acknowledging that construction projects often take longer and have delays. Your foresight was right. For one thing, the DHS licensing at the GNUUC took 3 months longer, and meeting the codes cost $40,000 more than anticipated. Also, despite our best efforts, our enthusiasm, and our planning, we've experienced a number of challenges at the Charlotte Pike project. Weather-related delays and the discovery of unsuitable soil conditions have slowed down the site work. We have had to hire additional engineers to create a soil remediation plan that would meet the needs of the parking lot and the portable building. Our contractors, John Art of DWC Builds and Jackson Builders, have worked hard to find cost-effective solutions. We are currently submitting a revised project scope for underwriting through SBA. We are committed to completing the Arboretum project as efficiently and responsibly as possible. This extension would give us the flexibility and the peace of mind to maintain continuity of care for our families and to transition to new site in a secure and stable way. We are now aware of concerns that have come to our attention regarding noise. Until this Monday, we had not received any feedback from the neighbors. Now that we are aware of issues, we are eager to be responsive to address them. We are prepared to remove the use of loud instruments in the garden area, to adjust the outdoor schedule to minimize overlapping groups, to reduce the number of children in the garden space at any one time, and to monitor the noise levels to adjust accordingly. We welcome the opportunity for open dialogue and collaboration to problem solve with the neighbors, and we are confident that we can find a solution that honors the needs of Still Spring Hollow community and the children in our care. Thank you again for your time, your consideration, and your support.
I'm here mostly this afternoon to answer any questions that come up, but, and I have sent a letter ahead. But I'll just emphasize that the congregation is very pleased to have the preschool on our property, and it has been it has had a positive impact on the way our property is used. And the children and families seem happy. The preschool provides a valuable service to the community while being financially and socially beneficial for our congregation. And so I'm here to be in support of this application. Thank you.
Thank you all. Any questions for the applicants? Okay, there are no questions, and you've got some time left for rebuttal if you'd like it. So we'll hear from the opposition.
And for those parties here in opposition, if you wish to speak, there are 4 seats, I think, over there. Please come on over. Have a seat. I'll reset that clock for you. Just recording how much time she had left. And again, I'll let you get through your introductions, and then we'll begin the clock then. Mr. Chairman, just one thing let me add that I didn't say in my initial presentation. I'm looking for my mouse here. This is the board's order in the good job, Joey. This is the board's order in the previous case. You guys granted in January of 2024 for a 12-month period. The question came up in our office, 12 months being January of 25. I took you to mean that I was not going to stop this school mid-school year, so I did allow them to continue through this school year and seek reapproval back here. So if that question arises today, that was my interpretation as zoning administrator. I don't think you meant to put the kids out halfway through a school year. So that's the order in that case, and that's what brought her back to you guys here. I'll get that out of the way. I do, for opposition, if you need, I've got Metro's parcel maps available with aerial photographs. If you want me to pull those up, just let me know. All right, with that, I will reset the clock and turn it over to you guys.
Hi, I'm Donnie Bryan. I live at 7048 Still Spring Hollow, 37221.
36, Still Spring Hollow,
That's it.
3702.
221.
122.
I'm William Thaladay. I live at 7048 Still Spring Hollow Drive, 37221.
I'm Ru Hao Zhan. I live at 7040 Still Spring Hollow Drive, 37221.
Okay, guys, whoever would like to start.
Okay, so a year ago, we got a similar zoning notice about like today, and we didn't know what it meant that a daycare was moving near us. That can be a lot of things in a lot of scenarios. I also want to say that I taught high school for 37 years, the last 10 of them at Innsworth High School as their visual and performing art department chair. We have no bones or issues about teaching children or the nature and philosophy of the school. We gave it a year. And because the church was our neighbors and many of them were our friends. And So the daycare didn't do what it said it was going to do. They had a playground and they moved into a memory garden where people's ashes are interred. And Mr. Evney Warner, who coached at Dixon High School, his wife is interred there. Her ashes are interred there, and he built that memory garden. He's returning from Florida to exhume that urn and move it. So the children moved further into our neighborhood. They moved into the woods where they meet every day. I sent you a letter earlier, and I have 23 neighbors signed that we don't want to continue with the daycare. These neighbors front the property like I do. I'm directly across from the woods where it meets. An elderly neighbor's children signed for her. They own the home and live in Huntsville, Alabama. She's 30 feet at the side of it, and then 4 members who back up to the parking lot or face the church signed. We didn't know it was going to be so loud. We didn't know it was going to involve athletic whistles, drumming, pots and pans. It's gone from one thing to the next. Nothing ever ceases to surprise us. We hear the teachers all day yelling at the children. We hear the crying. I can have breakfast in my dining room, and I know they're there. I already hear when they go out. So I bought my retirement home in Still Spring Hollow Drive. It was not Babbling Spring, Roaring Spring. It was Still Spring Hollow. And our neighborhood has been disturbed. Like I say, we thought it was going away. And the next thing we hear, the very next piece of information any of us really got was that there's another hearing today to talk about a renewal and expansion, and we're just not for that and everything. I'm not having audio trouble. I'm not sure why it's not playing. Imagine trying to do your lawn, and it goes on all day, every weekday.
Is that coming from the playground?
Yes. And like I say, they're not where they said they were going to be. They were going to be in a garden and in a playground, and now they pushed on into our neighborhood. Many people have home offices and work from home. There are a lot of professionals who live there. But like I say, you have 23 residents here that say, we need it to go away. We want our peace and quiet back. Thank you so much. Oh, I wanted to add, when the leaves are off the trees in the winter, it's also very, very much louder. And they tarp the sandboxes and they tarp the equipment. And our visitors ask us if it's a homeless encampment.
Now, on the original application, we're supposed to use the playground that was established by the church. And because it was going to be a temporary use, the hearing waived the requirement of fencing around the playground and landscape buffers that would stop or minimize the noise. That was back in early 2024. Now they've moved, and on their application, they were showing where their existing playground was and the building that they were using. After the memory garden disaster, they moved down to the other end of the property, which is 345 feet from their original playground. It's 135 feet from our house. And our problem is, under the municipal code, it says that a landscape buffer that abuts a residential zone district has to include a fence attached to the building and a landscape buffer. And there's no way that they can attach a fence where they're currently located.
Yes, we gave it a year and we were patient and we're at our wits' end. It's intrusive. It's a nuisance that's been pushed onto us.
Is this happening all the time or just when they're breaking for recess?
It goes while they're out playing. And note that this is a 12-month-a-year outdoor daycare that's right out front.
They don't really have a recess. It's all day long.
And
They break for lunch.
and you don't know what you're going to get on any given day. It's all kinds of noises keep appearing, and it just gravitates from one to the next.
We bought our house back 2007 and planning to retire there because it's really quiet and peaceful in the front of the house. There's nothing there. There's a retention pond. It's a big one. And so for so many years, we enjoy our life. But lately, the daycare, there's so much noise coming from it. And a lot of times, it's not just 1 hour or 2 hours. It's all day long. And we went to the meeting the other day, we found out they rotate the children. Like some of them come out this time, some come. So all day long, there'll be children there playing and making noise. And they even have the children in the winter, very severe cold, they're outside. Like right now, kids are outside, it's pretty hot. If they're outside this long, I'd be really concerned about the children. And plus the retention pond, they're really close to that. There's a lot of mosquitoes, ticks, or any kind of insects. I don't think it's safe for the children to be playing all day long in there. And we strongly oppose that.
And because it's a hollow, the noise is amplified, it bounces, and it's distorted. And we hear it in the front and we hear it in the back just as much.
There's only a couple of points I would like to make. And over the last couple of weeks, I have heard several people say, well, we didn't know there was an issue. And really, the neighbors try to be very tolerant to the daycare. And we knew that it was going away soon. You know what I'm saying? And the reason I have not, complained about the noise is because I, talk to myself and say, okay, why cause an issue with something that's temporary and going away? So why actually, complain about the noise? If we had any idea that they were thinking about requesting an extension, we would have started our communications much earlier. But we have several recordings from the front of the house and inside the house of the really unbearable noise. The screaming is not just, I know it sounds cold-hearted. I've already sent a letter to the board, but I know it sounds cold-hearted that you think we don't want to hear children playing, but it's not the sound of giggling, chasing children playing. It is screaming, multiple screaming, and fussing, and it's just a disruptant, and it's not a pleasant noise whatsoever. So we really would appreciate your consideration in this. I value daycares. I'm sure they present a great value to the parents who bring their children there. I have no issue with the daycare. It's just that it's not in the right location. And I'm very concerned if we have an extension that it's going to eventually be rezoned to allow, other than residential. Right now it's residential, and we prefer that stay residential. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We
you.
appreciate
A
your
question.
consideration.
If I could ask you all a
Yes.
question, do you think the noise would be mitigated? It looks to me like the playground right now is at least against some of your houses right behind.
Yes.
And there's 4.2 acres there. I can't tell the topography. You're saying there's a hollow, which I get what you're saying. It can also sometimes shield noise if you get down somewhere where you're protected. But is there would the noise problem be reduced if the playground was moved from where it is now? Because I see it's right up against your house.
Right.
And
Yes.
that is close. But do you think you would have the same issues if it were on the other side of the main building?
Because of the nature of the school, it's loud. I mean, it's not your typical daycare. It's a beautiful idea, but it's in the wrong place.
And so, talk to me about that. You're saying it's not your typical daycare, and I don't know much about daycare, but I thought they usually got out a couple
It's
times.
the first daycare I've met that has 12-month daycare that meets outside. And, it's outdoors. And like I say, it's adjacent to our property. It fronts us. We're right in front of it.
Right.
We're beside of it. And it's like, it's like in your house. It's so loud.
And I think the daycare emphasizes nature and being out in nature. And so they are really outdoors a lot. And, but my concern is that if they tried to implement something that is a noise barrier, we really would not have a recourse as to how to enforce it. And, and I hate to see them invest a lot of money into trying to do something when that money could be applied for their permanent location. And so.
And like we say, when the leaves are off the trees and it's bare, it's so unsightly. And it's embarrassing when our company comes and asks us, is that a homeless encampment? And it's right there, right across the street from us.
Any more questions for the opposition? Okay, thank y'all very much. We appreciate it. The applicant has, I think, at least 5 minutes left.
May I submit these to you?
You can submit them, Mr. Hargis, and he'll make them a part of the record if they're not already. It sounds like they're things from the last.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is where the background was, and this is kind of where
Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, so if the applicant still here, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's working. There we go. I'm Kate Borsheim. I live at 6608 Ellesmere Road, District 23, neighboring the Westmead Elementary School, and also a parent of a new leaf child.
So y'all heard the opposition and their concern, as I hear it, is there's some concerns about the appearance of, I think, some tarps, but the main concern is the noise level coming from sounds like mostly the playground area. And so I guess we'd want to hear what y'all have to say about that. I mean, their position is it's happening all the time. It's not just a recess thing. It does look like your playground areas, you've got 4.2 acres there. That's really a lot. And your playground is right up against the back of these houses. So I'm asking that because I'm trying to figure out, is there a solution here to move? Pardon me?
Can we zoom using your parcel viewer and I can point out?
I think he can pull up the parcel viewer, yeah.
Perfect. And so the existing play structure is the closest play structure at the back. That actually neighbors more houses in the play area that has been designated by the school.
Okay, what's in your materials? Maybe I'm not, but can you move this over to it looks to me like the existing playground is, on the materials we have, is right in the backyard or adjoining the back of some houses. So I'm trying to make sure I'm
That's
on the same
correct.
page.
So if you were to look at the back corner of the parcel
Right.
itself, the school children do not use a designated playground that's on the property. That's actually out of goodwill for the neighbors. The
The
children.
one that's right next to their back.
Correct.
Okay, that's
Yes.
not being used as
That
y'all's
is not
position.
being
Okay.
used by the children. As parents, we actually drop them off in the garden, which if you're looking at the parcel viewer when highlighted, is really close to that top right corner and is neighboring the most upper house that you see at the very top, yep, right above where your cursor is. Next to that is actually the HOA buffer zone. You can see that there, that's the HOA land. That buffers the actual border of the church property to the residential property. With that, obviously, like the focus of play has been to a wooded area. It's the ethos of the school. Our children are safe. Yes, they do spend the majority of their time outside, and that's with great intention and with great happiness. With that, they're taking advantage of the wooded area versus the pavement laden parking lot plus existing schools or existing play structure. Our drop-off goes right around the school. It's been very easy, smooth. Obviously, you're dropping off a child, so occasionally they'll cry. But in all honesty, I think what's interesting, at least from my perspective, is that because this has been a church property, it has historically been exempt from the noise ordinances that are applied to regular businesses, homes, regular property, etc. Now, while as an exempt as a daycare facility, we're actually following the noise ordinance guidance and have been applied to it. If you're using the measure tool on your parcel viewer, the closest instance I think is 30 feet. Even if at a registered decibel level of 85 decibels on site, 0.0, the decline from 85 decibels over 30 feet is within the normal acceptable noise. No more than like your road noise. Dropped off kids this morning and actually was at the house at the very bottom of the parcel viewer on the street closest to drop off, listening to screaming children with my decibel viewer, registered at 46.1 decibels, probably of a distance of about 60 feet. So that's normal drop-off, screaming child, 46.1 decibels. You and I in a normal conversation is actually going to register at 55 decibels. The road noise in your car, inside your car, registers at 66. That's not even counting the exterior decibel level. I think what's important to note is while we are noisy by nature, they're children. We want to encourage them to play, to express themselves. The other thing that should be known is that with a New Leaf, we are very adaptable, accommodating, and a steward of the community. They've offered us such a great place to raise our children. Also, as a neighboring community member, I live right next to the Westmead Elementary, serves over 400 students, I believe. The traffic with buses, their field days, it's loud. But it's also part of being the community. The church being in existence here as well, and always exempt from noise ordinance just per Metro codes. It's funny to me when I hear somebody say, I moved in here and it was quiet. You moved in here with the accepted notice that this is a church ground. There could be noise. They're omitted from current ordinances. There's that. But also going back to the community and to the parents and the organization that backs a New Leaf, there's not a single person here that wouldn't do our best to make sure that we reduce the noise. Do we take away pots and pans? We can make that happen. There's more creative ways to play. Are there ways for us as a community to help buffer or build back the outdoor garden, yes. This troop of parents, we get our hands dirty because we want to and to support it. So with that, I'll stop there. If you have any questions for me, by all means. But
And you're permitted to have up to 25 children there. Have y'all been at 25 or less, or where are you?
Yes, we
It's been
are.
at 25, okay.
Yes,
Age range from what?
18 months to 5 years.
Okay.
And we have groups, and sometimes we've brought all the groups together in that garden area that is back there. But what we can do is separate them and make sure that the number of children are lessened. We also have the whole forest on the other side there, and we've developed trails there so we can spend more time over there. So knowing that there is a problem, we can address it. We just had no idea. And so we've met, since we know now, because this came out on Monday, we have got meters and we're measuring and we're seeing what the impact is, and we're totally willing to speak with you guys and to figure out how to reduce the noise and make it enjoyable for everyone. And we would love to invite you to come and play with us. We do not have those tarps anymore. We've received grants, and we have purchased beautiful wooden furniture that fits into the landscape. And so we'd love for you to come and play.
Are you saying that y'all didn't have any noise complaints until this past Monday? So nobody.
Correct. Yeah, we had not heard.
Nobody from the neighborhood had approached you or called the police for anything?
No. And there were issues prior that required calling the police prior to us being there.
Yeah, but in the years immediately preceding the preschool being there, we had noise issues in the dark hours.
Okay.
Overnight, with people coming and driving donuts, playing loud music. And we did hear from a few neighbors when that happened.
Okay.
We haven't heard any complaints
With the
directly
child
to
care,
the church.
no complaints until you were renewing here or extending. Is that fair to say?
Yes, somebody in my congregation pointed out something somebody had put on Facebook, and that was less than 2 weeks ago, I believe.
And I'll add one more on timing. The team has been heads down on the new build of the new property. The parents want that. We're trying to make sure that we're supportive in every way possible to make that happen. I will also let you know how incredibly disheartening it would be given the early childhood learning and care desert that we live in here in Nashville. Wait lists are over 2 years long. My child, even alone for a new leave, was added before he was born. So with that, this 2-year extension is maybe not going to cover it even for the parents if a change would have to be made. But in terms of our focus on the new Arboretum, it's absolutely there. If we can move out sooner, we will. But the 2-year extension is absolutely essential and doesn't even meet, like I said, the common waiting list for other programs for early childhood development.
Just one quick question. You said maximum extension will be 2 years. And probably you mentioned a possibility you vacating prior to 2 years if the construction is completed. What is your timeline, realistic timeline? Do you foresee you may use a 2-year extension fully or a possibility of vacating earlier? And also at the same time, do you see another extension in the future?
So I would love to be ready to move into this new location for the next school year, so August 26th. But knowing what happened in the past and how construction and weather and other difficult unforeseen events happen, I would not want to just say, okay, we just only need 1 year, because it's possible it's going to be 14 months. It's possible that, it's hard to predict, but we're putting all the efforts that we can to move it as soon as possible.
Mr. Hargis, can you put the requirements up for a special exception for a daycare?
Certainly. Give me 1 second. I will do that.
I have the code reference if that's easy too.
I don't have, it's easy if you put it on the screen, but thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
They fall under letter A.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I remember this case, and I remember,
Do you want me to, do you have any questions for them? If not, I'll.
No, I
we'll just Okay, so, thank y'all very much. We
Thank
don't-
you.
May I add something?
Do they have time left?
They do, yes.
Okay, sure. And I'm sorry,
Oh,
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're
I
fine.
thought-
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to speak to the fact that we are licensed by the Department of Human Services, and our last evaluation, we received a score of 97 out of 100, and we received a score of 100 the evaluation prior. So we do follow the rules, even though we do spend a lot of time outside. The children also nap and eat and are inside the building as well. So we're not always outside, but we do spend more time outside than your regular
Well, I think
school.
what Ms. Davis is asked to be put up, your play area is supposed to be attached to your main structure and fenced.
that is why I brought it up,
Yeah,
because
so-
I remembered this one, and I remember we made like sort of an exception because they said it was temporary. And so I think it's a tough one because it's a balance, because I think everybody understands the need for daycare, but I also think we have to balance against the context of that people live here. So that was it. That's why I brought it up. Yeah, you're right.
Well, what is adjacent is actually closer to the neighbors and would be more noisy if we were only on the blacktop. We could use the blacktop that is adjacent to the building and the forest. We just prefer to be in the forest, which is more quiet than it would be if we were on the blacktop or that playground. So it's all connected and it's all fenced, and we could use the whole thing if we wanted to.
So there is a fence existing or no fence?
Yes,
There's an
there
existing
is.
fence. And where's the fence?
It used to be Gower Kindergarten, and so the whole property is fenced. And on the side of the building, we have purchased our own fencing so that we can fence it out. And that's been approved by the Department of Human Services.
And that's temporary fencing so that parents can actually do the close by drop off and then exit, and then they can pull the fencing to stop traffic.
And what's the material? What's the fence material?
Metal,
It's metal. So you can see through the fence?
yes.
Any more questions for the, okay, thank y'all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will close the public hearing and discuss. Well, I mean, I think that, I'm glad Ms. Davis had that put up, because I do think that the outdoor playground is supposed to be attached and it's supposed to be fenced in a way that minimizes noise, and we don't have that. So,
I mean, I think they do have it. I just think it's that they don't use it. My understanding is that they're using there's a metal temporary fencing that they put up, but because the playground is closer to the residences, they're using a wooded area behind it. So, I mean, it seems like they actually meet the code, but they're using a different area.
has to be attached.
I don't know if Mr. Hargis, will you pull the requirement back up? Because it also says in a way that doesn't, in a manner which minimizes noise impacts on neighboring residences. I think this one is tough because I do think that the daycare has all of the best intentions, and I think that they're willing to work with their neighbors. And I would prefer that everybody go and negotiate a solution, because I don't think anybody's going to be happy if we come up with the solution. That's just my, so I really wish everybody would get together and work this out, because I don't think anybody's going to like our solution. But that's why I brought that up, because I remembered that it's supposed to mitigate noise. And I think by just listening to that recording, that's not mitigating noise, especially if it goes on all day. Like, nobody has a problem with children making noise. And I actually feel sympathetic to the opposition as well, because I don't think they wanted to show up here today. I feel bad for those families, because I don't think they want to be here today either. Like I said, I think it's really tough. And I just think that the right answer is a balance between both people's interests. And that's where I'm sort of at. So I think this is an unusual daycare. And so it doesn't fit neatly in the code, but it's also, we made an exception for them because we did understand that they were building, and I understand construction delays. And so I'm not saying that they're not entitled to another extension, but I think if we gave another extension, we would have to put more rigor around the extension, just because it doesn't look like on its face, I could be wrong, it doesn't look like it's on its face that it's meeting the code, and you have these complaints about noise, and we had evidence of the noise. So that's all I'm saying. I don't have a solution. These are just observations.
Mr. Hargis, does the record reflect that didn't we have the file information that it is meeting the special exception requirements? I think that's the thing is, if it's checking the boxes, that's one thing. I think there's a concern that's been raised about noise.
Well, they attested in the last time that they are complying with the code.
Yeah.
I have my own questions as to, historically, the playground for us is attached to the building. So if by chance that door flies open, the kid breaks, he's confined or she's confined to the playground. They're not roaming free. So if that's not occurring here, then our office has got an issue with that particular standard.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality is the requirements are what the requirements are. So that's I don't know how we can't. They have to comply with if they're not complying with what the special exception permit says, which is to do this, there's an issue anyways. And so that's sort of my thought is, if we're saying, you have to ensure all of these are the case, then it's up to them to comply with it. And then it's up to them to, it's up to codes or the neighbors, if there is a problem, to bring that to codes. And then that would come as a show cause or something like that if they had a violation of a special exception permit. So I think my thinking is
and see that this is unusual too, that I think everybody should put on context. Most special exceptions don't have a timeline. This one had a timeline for a specific reason, and that's why we're hearing it again. And so I think the reason why the neighbors didn't complain, and I'm assuming, but just from the testimony of the one neighbor, nobody wants to complain on a daycare. They're kids. Nobody wants to complain about that. And so I think they didn't want to complain, but then when the special exception notice went out, that's why it prompted the complaint. So, because they could have complained throughout the year, because the code says if there's a show cause hearing saying that you're not meeting the code, then we have to hear it again, and I think that they didn't. So again, I think you're right. I think your initial thought is if they're not meeting this, I don't even know if by law we can even.
Yeah, that's my thought is it's we extend the special exception out, and if there's an issue that's violating that permit, there's recourse for it. It's not, it's not dead.
If I may, because I was not there, 24 when it approved. So, 23,
I was out
yes,
for that
23.
meeting too.
So, what would be good is confirm this fence requirement meet with this special exception requirement. And as well, I would love to see neighbors and school get together, such as noise mitigation. It's the nature of the school, so they do have a unique program, but they should be able to make noise mitigation, such as if they curriculum, part of the curriculum to, bang pots and pans. If you put a cotton on the stick, maybe noise can be muffed. So I think there's so many solutions, but since we are the body to accept to the extension or not, we are the authority. So I think I don't want to, grant the extension just because it seems like meeting the exception, special exception. It may, but I would rather confirm those mitigation, especially the reason for the fencing playground is reduce the noise. So to come up with surrounding neighbor. So I'd rather see defy it and then bring the solution. And then if we were to confirm indeed this new extension request is meeting the special exception, I feel comfortable extending it.
And I also think it's important to point out that this is an exception. And while this is a unique daycare, maybe they have to modify their curriculum while they're in a temporary location until they get to their permanent location. Like, the onus shouldn't be on one side to make the bend in order to accommodate this unique daycare. They have a unique curriculum. I respect that. But maybe because you're in this temporary location, you've got to modify your curriculum and modify how many times a day kids are outside because you're not in a location that's conducive to that, and in light of what the code says, that you have to try to mitigate the noise. So those are my observations. I would recommend a deferral, that they try to come together with a compromise, because listening to Ms. Johnson and listening to me, and I don't know where Mr. Pepper or Ms. Carpentack are, but I don't even know if they're going to get, I don't think we're even going to reach a decision today, but I could be wrong, and I'll be quiet so you guys can talk.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, too, there's 5 people. There's only one meeting between now and then, so it might benefit them to defer it out, just so that, but also, again, I want to be mindful of the fact that I want to make sure that they've got the ability to operate because I mean, schools, it's a year-round school is my understanding. I don't want to put any parents in a situation or any kids in a situation where there's not a place for them to go to school. So I want to be clear that this is they are fully authorized to continue operating here until, well, I know that there was a question about, well, I guess it was a 2-year, was the last one, Joey, a 2-year? So they're covered through January of 2026?
Your prior order, pull it back up, was for 12 months previously, which would have ran out January 8 of 2025. And so our office allowed them to complete, through the school year rather than.
But there won't be a problem allowing them another 30 days.
No problem, no, sir.
So what I suggest is, can we open up a public hearing and ask the applicant about a deferral? And I do think that they're very willing as willing as any applicant I've seen, to try to do whatever they can. So is anybody opposed to reopening the public hearing? Okay, so the applicant come back up for just a few minutes. Or applicants plural, sorry, I guess it's several of you. So you've heard the discussion, and if we defer this for 30 days, then your school's not going to get shut down. I think a takeaway would be, for sure, and I'm with Ms. Davis and others who have spoken, I don't think you're in compliance right now. I think you have to have something that is a fence that will mitigate noise, and I think it needs to be, it doesn't have to be, it's kind of weird language, attached in a way that minimizes noise, but I think you also know you've got some neighbors that we've listened to, and they have concerns that board members think are legitimate. I think we all think this can be worked out, or we're very hopeful that it can be. So would y'all be okay with a 30-day deferral? And that would give you, what we'd expect to see is a plan that addresses the concerns we have. And I think it would behoove y'all tremendously to be out front with the neighbors about, what you can do with the noise and other issues. So, we can put it to a vote today, I think. I think you probably know how that may turn out, but so.
Yeah, we would love to speak with the neighbors and find common ground and the solution. I'm
And you-
just wondering, is there like a mechanism for this? Is our council?
I think we'll probably stay out of that. I mean, y'all have announced I don't think you have to re-announce a public meeting, so I think it's probably going to be incumbent upon y'all to reach out and do that.
How long do you think you would need to come up with this? Because, I mean, we could say 30 days, but if it's not enough, then we don't want to do it. We're mindful of the fact that these are parent-driven decisions and things like that. So we don't want to shortchange what
So
the
the-
school would need to meet some of the board members' concerns.
The next meeting is on August 7th. Is that what you said?
I think so. And then is there one on August the
21st.
21st?
I think we may need more time just because we have, the school year is ending and the new one is starting August 8th. So there will not be children for some time. And so we're just wondering, if we want to do some measurement and testing and change our schedule, like we might need some time to test it with the neighbors.
We also, it's very helpful a lot of times to have site plans and specifics about materials. I mean, not just a fence, but what type of fence is it? How thick is it going to be? Where is it going to be located? Those kind of things. Because I think it's very clear that you're required to have a fence that minimizes noise, and any kind of link fence or see-through fence is not going to do that.
I have an idea to discuss with this group that might be a workable thing, but if we want to close the public hearing again.
So August 21st would be workable for y'all.
Or are you saying you would need
School would have started.
Okay.
Technically. I think that's where you get the parent
Yeah,
unease.
yeah.
I mean,
I think your choices are probably all, I don't know that, extending it to August, is it 21st, is more than a month. I don't think this is going to take architectural drawings or anything like that, is it? So, your permit really ran out in January, so, I'm not, if you think you can't get it done by August 21st, I guess I'd like to know why. If we're going to extend it further than that.
Well, I think the issue is that, my children are in daycare right now as we speak. And so I think a lot of folks by that time, the kids are going to be in daycare. And so the people that work with the daycare are going to be working at the daycare at the time that are there. So I think that's the concern is,
they can't be here for the meeting.
Some of the parents I think could be, but I think that the people that work the school would there'd have to be something to take them away from the school. But what I'm wondering is if frankly, we extend this and we give it some interim 60, 90 days or something like that, just to with the admonition of that they're familiar with what we've talked about here today. It potentially gets us into a cold weather month, so we can, somebody can figure out if there needs to be something to address the lack of vegetation that was raised at one point. But to me, that would be a good outcome, because it would give them all an opportunity to see if they can come to some sort of consensus with these neighbors. But if not, it would also give them an opportunity to check and confirm the way things are.
So you would.
I would say,
60 to 90 days. But then they'd have to renotice. Then we wouldn't be deferring it. They'd have to renotice it, I think, and go through the whole process.
I would say we could defer it 60 days to give them time to gather the evidence and take care of this. And then, that'd give them sufficient time to make arrangements for if they wanted to have somebody else come to the hearing and on their behalf, if they had an issue with being out of school.
I don't think the public hearing is closed. Is that right?
No,
I think we
it is
opened it
closed,
up and now you've closed it again.
that's right. Okay, so I'll officially close.
Okay, I was just wondering if we were deliberating.
Sorry, thank you.
No, I've been quiet all this
I think
time, but I think we are being more than generous.
I think the sooner the better. Could I go 60 days if there's a reason to go 60 days? Yeah, frankly, August 21st is 5 weeks, But we're not going to hit a hearing right on the 60-day mark, I don't think, are we? I mean, what would be after August 21st, it is
September 4th.
September 4th. I mean,
September, I was thinking we deferred to September 18th. Second
so
meeting in
about 2
September.
months. Okay. I mean, I could live with that.
All right, I'll make a motion that we defer this to September 18th.
Okay. I'll second it, but I will hear discussion. I mean, I can go, is that 2 months? That's 2 months. That's the most I would want to go.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I just think there needs to be some effort to come into compliance because we found out today you're not in compliance. And so there has to be some kind of give and take with the neighbors.
Noted. I think it may have been a special waiver per this being in addition to an existing institution being the church.
I'm sorry, we've closed the public hearing, so yeah. All right, so there's a motion and a second on, what's that date again, September the
18th.
18th, that this will be deferred.
And we can, Mr. Harkins, we can get assurances that the department's not going to take any adverse action that will impact this kid's ability to go to school.
Correct. Yes, sir.
May I ask
Okay,
a question?
Ma'am, we've closed the public hearing. We're voting right now. So we have a motion on the table in a second to defer it till to September 18th. Any discussion?
I understand, point of view, but I think noise mitigation point, I think, neighbor would appreciate if the 30 days, not 60 days. Because one of the requests we are asking is the fencing comply, show us it's a compliance with the fence requirement, which include noise mitigation. So instead of 60 days going through, if the noise was not mitigated, neighbors would appreciate, shorter timetable. So if they can come up with, best solution within next 5 weeks, that would be the best outcome for both sides. But I can go either way.
I mean, I think the issue though is and maybe maybe my threshold for noise is pretty high as someone who's got a 4-year-old and an 11-month-old running around my house banging on stuff all the time. But I think my concern is school starts in 3 weeks, and we're putting a tight schedule on if they find out that they're going to have to do a bunch of work out here, then that's a tight turnaround. I think that if there were the noise
going to be in for till like December.
Well, no, that's right. So I think 60 days strikes a pretty good balance though.
Yeah.
See, I don't. I think we're tipping it too far one way. I'm just being honest. I'm fine going into the 1st of September. Yeah. I have an 11-month-old who just screams for no reason. Just loud, and I'm loud. So I'm not I'm not adverse to the noise, but I'm just saying we have a special exception. We have a code. I'm willing to work with them. I think, because I understand that these are working people that need a place to send their kids, but how far do we tip that to meet that? That's all I'm saying. So I think if you want to go the first week of September, fine. But I think we're leaning too far if you go 60 days.
That's September 4th. That's the day I think you.
It's like
Labor Day's on the 1st, so it's 3 days after Labor
September
Day.
4th or September. I'd say this, if we're going to go beyond 30 days, I think, and I was going to say this when we voted on it, that, I think they would know that we would, expect, I think you're in a position, you don't want the neighbors coming back in 60 days and saying it got worse during the 60-day period. So you would want to make sure that you start taking steps so that you're in a really good position when you get back. So, but I'm fine with September 4th or September 18th. It's, so.
I'll do whatever the body does. I don't want to be the enemy of a solution.
We've got a motion. We got a motion in a second to defer till September 18th. So let's just vote on that. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, so that September 18th, deferred until then. Thank you all.
Okay. This case will be postponed till 9/18. to benefit all parties involved. We'll be sure to send out a notice. Our usual meeting place should be done by then, but, things do happen. So, so for the parties present, we'll send out a notice based upon our mail list from last time.
Before we go to the next case, does anybody need a break okay, so we'll go to the next case.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, you ready for the next?
We're ready.
Okay. All right. Our next case will be 2025-60, 332 Shepherd Hills Drive. This is a request by Mr. Nuri. Is the appellant for this property at 332 Shepherd Hills Drive, requesting a variance from the street setbacks in R20 to construct a duplex, two-family dwelling, referred to the board under section 1712.030. The appellant has alleged jurisdiction under 1740-180, item B. I know the appellant's here. Are there any parties in support or opposition to case 60? Just the appellant's here. Ms. Nuri, if you would, please, just come have a seat to the table to my right. Let me go through the photographs and get the board caught up of where we are, and then I will turn it over to you, sir. The members, this case was actually on our agenda last time. Mr. Nuri had a death in his family and was unable to attend, so we put him back on the agenda and noticed again. Just to remind you, this is the subject property on Shepherd Hills Drive. This is up in the Madison area. The request for gentleman is to, and I'll pull up another map too, but the required street setback, Shepherd Hill Drive terminates right at this gentleman's property, and you'll see that in the photographs. The gentleman has looks like a sanitary sewer easement and a stormwater easement located at the back and along the side. Just across Shepherd Hills Drive, here is a private lake, which I'll pull up the aerial photos so you can see that. But, and actually, let me do that right now. So,
What's the required front setback?
the required front setback here, based on the average of the homes on the street, is 71 feet. And he is requesting a 31-foot setback. And let me pull up the parcel viewer for you. Sorry, I turned on some topo for that last case. I'll get that off the screen here in just a moment. Thank you. So I was talking about that private lakes across the road over there. So this gentleman is his setback requirements are based upon these four homes to his immediate west. And so his setback required, after looking at that average, turns out to be 71 feet, which is a little bit behind this particular home. The footprints that's shown here, I don't let that sort of skew in any way. This is a HPR recorded doc showing an approximate footprint location. But I do want to say that based upon flipping back over now to the PowerPoint, you saw that home to the immediate side would be located roughly where my cursor or pointer is located. So this is an attached two-family dwelling, not the freestanding tall skinnies that you're used to see everywhere. Let me turn off the. Here we go. Okay, this is the subject lot in question. There's that home immediately to the west of him. As I talked about, these are the homes that we were just looking at on the aerial photograph to his immediate west. And then Shepherd Hills, I think in the next, prior photograph, if you can see this power line pole that's on the left-hand side, just off the edge of my screen is where the road terminates there. So he's the last lot on this thing. And that stream and creek's located to the rear along that, just on the other side of that tree line, which you see there. Flipping kind of back to the aerial. So that's what we were looking at there.
Mr. Hargis?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you go back to the screen that you showed that what's required and what's being provided, please?
This one.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Yeah, I'll reset this time for you there. And you'll have 5 minutes to present your case to the board, sir. And if you would please hit that button just in the center, make sure that green light comes on. All right, you're set. It's all yours, sir. Ooh, hit it one more time there. There you go.
Good afternoon. Before we start this job, I just emailed to the stormwater and asked about the requirements. This is the only thing you need to have an 11-foot foundation. Based on that, I had to spend $5,000 to the engineer to design the house. We pay all the fees. We get 85% of the sign-off. At the last one, the lady from the stormwater told me, on that area that you want to build, it is a buffer zone, and it needs to have 75 feet space. The only thing we can do to move the building to the front a little bit. That's why I'm just asking if it's possible to get the approval from you guys to build it. From beginning, if I know it's gonna be that issues, we'll never touch it. So everybody's approved it. We need to getting the last sign off. If you guys approve it, we can get the last sign off and then start the job.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and discuss. I will tell you that I think the reason that I'll be transparent, I didn't put this on consent is I couldn't figure out I missed somehow what the required setback was. And I don't think I thought about it carefully, because as I sit here and look at it, I'm thinking there's clearly, to me, hardship. And to me, the 71-foot setback on this, I don't know how else you would do it, but the architects would know better. I mean,
Well,
See, that house,
sorry, we closed the public hearing.
Oh, sure.
yeah. I mean, there's different ways. I mean, it can be pushed back a little bit more. It can be rotated a different way. I mean,
To
there's
get the 71 feet.
maybe not 71, but it doesn't have to be in this. Is it 31 feet?
It's 31.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just,
Well, I mean, I would think the neighbors would like having the driveway and stuff in the back. And I mean, if you have that, it doesn't seem to me like there's a whole lot. It seems like, you backed it up as far as you can, but
yeah. I mean, one neighbor mentioned it's not in line with the other homes in the neighborhood, so it's out of character.
I mean, I don't think that would be possible here, though, to have something that's going to be in line with the other homes, unless you're going to just render the lot totally unbuildable. I mean, you could.
There's different
I mean,
choices.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that it seems like it'd be impossible to not for it to meet the required setback. That doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't. Sorry, I'm not. It seems like there has to be some variance. It's just what's it going to be?
Yeah, my struggle is because we have contextual, front setback. It was adopted, came from strong desire from neighborhood. And I do see this property as being flood zone and have to, keep the buffer. But so by doing so, applicant is requesting more than half of the contextual overlay. So is this the best we can do? I am really struggling the balance between the, appropriate development and getting away from the required, meeting requirement of the stormwater. Just because we want to allow him to meet the requirement, so do we completely overlook at the contextual overlay? I am not there yet.
I'm not either. I think it's just like the Sunnymead one.
I think it's a what?
I think it's just like the Sunnymead one that we heard that you voted on, the first one. I think that a variance is required. I'm supportive of a variance. I just think, like I said, I think the variant should be narrowly tailored, because if you're going to mess up the block face for a good reason, you should try to be as delicate with that as possible. And I don't think this is as delicate as possible.
Well, so how would it be? I hear you. I mean, to me, we're never going to get anywhere close to 71 feet on this, or 74 feet. So what does he do different? Because I'm looking at where that floodway setback is. I mean, the far corner, the corner of that house is a car and a half length from that. So I hear what you're saying. I just don't. It doesn't seem to me like this is a big overbuild, or he's asking for 15 feet. How much further can you push it back without?
Yeah, something different can be built in the space provided. This is.
And I hear you there, but what I'm saying is something different can definitely be built. You could have something longer and narrower, but how do you really, how much more are you going to get of a setback if you do that? Because I don't see that there's, are you saying you could build something different and get how many more feet of a setback?
We'd have to see a plan, but I mean, maybe 60 feet.
Maybe how much? 60 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do if you push it way back a little bit further. If the concrete drive was omitted, I guess
You're
they
saying
can't
to
be.
push it to the side and back further?
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
Well,
a way to.
You've got overhead power lines there to the
right,
side.
right.
I mean,
So
you've
that's
got,
the thing, is it?
you've got, that's what it looks like to me. is You've got,
There'd be a utility easement that would,
push it back where the concrete drive is and do something different with the drive. I mean, I think there's possibilities.
yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think there are possibilities. I just get uncomfortable when it's,
Right.
when I know that there's a hardship. That,
and that the other thing too is, I mean, like, I guess that's just a fundamental sort of view of like, what is a variance for? It's to do the thing, to move the thing that you could build by right, because there is a condition of the property that prevents you from building it. But I don't know that it's, to say that we should shrink what he can legally build kind of obviates the need for the variance, because it's sort of like, but for the existence
But
of
I don't
this
think
thing.
we're shrinking it. Like, he
Right.
bought this land knowing these limitations, and then he made choices. Like, I'm uncomfortable with using a variance as a way to facilitate going into a candy store and buying whatever you want. Like, yes, this property has hardships. Yes, you should get a variance, but that doesn't mean that like the existing context doesn't matter. I think we're supposed to balance that. That's our job. And I think it's also the job of the applicant to think about that and then present something that is respectful of all of those things. I mean, I'm familiar with this neighborhood. It's a back way into Rivergate Mall. Sad day about Rivergate Mall. And, I don't have a problem with what he's proposing, but that is an older, established neighborhood. It's going to change, and I think that's fine. But like, I think that 71 to 31 is a huge leap. And if you can go somewhere closer to 71, you should. That's my only point.
and I hear you, but I'm looking again at, and I kind of don't disagree with you principally, because to me, if it's a self-created hardship, that's when, and Mr. Hargis, when he was on the other side of the aisle, educated me on this one time. If you buy land as it exists, that's not a self-imposed hardship. A self-imposed hardship is, and you ought to be able to go out and buy land and expect that if it's oddly shaped, you should be able to get a variance. A self-imposed hardship is you buy it and you go create a berm or something, you do something to the land. But so looking at it, and I hear what you're saying, but I'm looking at where the floodway starts, and then I'm looking at the overhead power lines, and I'm looking at the footprint there, and I'm just thinking, I mean, we're talking about, could something different be done? It could be, but not much in my, non-architectural, but I think, it's basically a spatial thing, just looking straight on at where the overhead power is, which I'm assuming you can't build around that, and then you're looking at the floodway. I mean, I guess you could move it over closer to and if you move it over closer to the adjoining lot, you're going to lose even more space. So the footprint there, to me, the buildable footprint, which this applicant is stuck with that buildable footprint because of the power and everything else, and I don't see where you get close to 71.
I do see different way though, because this is established neighborhood, happen to be pretty much single home, single family residence. And applicant is proposing a duplex, attached duplex. But if applicant was to go with a single family and then turned the, house, and he can build closer to setback.
Yeah, but legally he can build a two residential property here. So that would basically be saying we're cutting off your property rights and saying in furtherance of.
But he could turn, like Member Davis said, really cater to this specific location with specific condition and limitation. I don't see that, he pushed or seek for that specific solution as of yet, because there are still more way to fit in this specific location. And, building rights, rights comes with contextual overlay, contextual neighborhood, because each lot has different condition. Just because R or RS does not mean that specific R zone can build a duplex. So,
and I wasn't saying that it was, I just think it should be clear, like, I don't want it to be that I think he self-imposed. What I'm saying is he bought this piece of property, he was aware of the conditions, and he has to make a choice. And that's all I'm saying. And I'm not an architect, but we thankfully have one, and she's saying, I think he can do better. And that's all I'm saying. Like, I think if you're going to mess up a block face, do better. That's all. If you're going to mess with a contextual line, you should do the very best you can to respect the existing line. That's it. Doesn't mean you don't get a variance. Doesn't mean that I see what you're looking at. But if there's a way to massage this a little bit better so that we put deference to the people that houses have already been there, that's, I guess, my only point. That was already established. If this didn't have neighbors and he was the first house, or this was a newer development, then I wouldn't even argue this, because it's a new development and then you're setting the contextual line. But like I said, this is an older neighborhood. This neighborhood's been around a very long time, and the line is established. Respect what's been established. I think that's all my point is. And yes, you have a variance, and I can vote for a variance, but I can't vote for this one.
I hear you, and I think it's more of a balance. I think is the property owner, once he establishes a variance, I don't think he's got to go to the most suitable way. I think he's still, if he wants to build a duplex, and he's allowed to. So I think I hear you. I just think there's more of a balance, and I don't think he's not come in and he could have. These are not big units. If you look at the square footage, it's not. We've had people come before us, and they'd be trying to put something substantially bigger. So, and I'll say, I hear what y'all are saying. I think, I don't think there's any question it could be designed in a way that you reduce the ask more, but I'm just at a point where I think to me, it's a balance, and I start getting into, I'm getting into kind of aesthetics but your point is, well, I get your point too, which is there's an established front back line. That's really not aesthetics. That's what's there in the neighborhood, but it's complex. Well, I think it's the line. I think everybody's where they are. So I'll make a motion that we approve the variance based on the hardship being the floodway setback.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. That does not pass, so. That is, I believe,
Okay.
continued for,
Well, I was just discussing with him what happens on a tie vote, so, and his question to me was, can I modify the plan? I'm like, sure, as long as it's not less compliant with the code. You're not asking for a greater variance, so, but I've given him his options, and we'll do
yeah,
that.
so I guess when he comes, because it's deferred till the next meeting,
Yes, sir,
right?
it
So
is,
I guess,
till August 7th. Ms. Nuri, it'll be here in this room on the 7th. And then we talked about that.
and he can come back with a modified plan as long as it's more compliant, is what you're saying.
Yes.
He doesn't have to renotice it and do all that
Not
stuff
at all.
just because he changed the site plan. Okay, well,
You would need to rescind your motion to look at his
right, gotcha.
new
Okay.
plan.
Well, I mean, I think you heard the discussion. The public hearing's closed, I'm sorry, but I think you've heard the discussion and you kind of know where everybody is. So there are two members that are not here. We obviously don't know how they would come out on this, but, okay, all right, well, I do need to take 5 minutes before the next case, if that works for everybody.
The board stand in recess for 5 minutes. feet from a residential zone district. And based upon the GIS measurements in parcel viewer, and I can bring that up to you, the closest residential property is 267 feet in linear distance. This is a view of the billboard that's currently located on the property. Mr. Mike will cover what their plans are. The residential, to give you some idea, this is looking north on Hillsborough and Green Hills. The mall's over here to the left where my cursor is. The closest residential is actually back to the right-hand side of this photograph. There are some R10 properties backing to the east. That's the closest residentially zoned properties. Again, a reminder, it's to residentially zoned properties, not residential uses. And then a view looking west on that. Mr. Michael, I will turn it over to you at this time. If you would please present your case to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Hargis. My name is John Michael from the Thompson Burton Law Firm, 1801 West End Avenue, representing Lamar Outdoor Advertising today in our request for a variance from this distance requirement under the zoning code. As Mr. Hargis outlined, this is not dissimilar from other cases the board has seen in its recent past. We believe the hardship that's in place here is basically a somewhat outdated ordinance, as is sometimes the case with things like rideshare, parking requirements, et cetera. Our zoning code and other laws don't necessarily keep up with emerging trends and the technology that dictates some of these business uses. In the case of digital billboard technology, the utilization, almost standard for most companies now, is the use of light mitigation technology that helps shield and narrow the arc of visibility and light projection from these signs such that they do not spill all around in a complete circle. Ironically, our ordinance under Title 17 regarding digital billboards creates that distance requirement for an entire circle around the billboard. As you know, any properties roughly perpendicular to or straight aside from a billboard's face, not going to be able to see that anyway. You won't see the billboard. So we point out some of the R-zoned properties around the area. And as Mr. Hargis said, it's not about whether there's a residence, like in a condo building or something, but if there's R zoning. So that's our trigger that brings us to you in need for a variance. I'll point out some of the highlights here. I think the board is in receipt of our memorandum support, a brief memorandum, but Exhibit A, a one-pager with an aerial photograph in the top portion and basically a clip from parcel view in the lower portion. As you can see in the upper picture, the aerial, we're showing the narrow arc of light that we cut out of that full circle, less than 90-degree cut out of that, so that we're projecting southbound or outgoing from downtown. And we bump into the YMCA, which ironically is our zoning. Also along that path, we have mostly Hillsborough Boulevard. And as you can see to the east or right in that picture, there are clearly a number of residences that, but for our use of the light mitigation technology, would in fact be in the path of that light. And we would have no chance to make a request for a variance to you because it would clearly be beyond the scope of what was appropriate. Looking northbound, much like the picture that Mr. Hargis showed a moment ago, you're looking north toward Hillsborough High School, which ironically is our zoned property, zoned residentially. I think we'll all agree that the YMCA out to the west is not going to be a residence anytime soon. The Hillsborough High School, which has been there longer than I think all of us have been alive, is not going to change to residences anytime soon. And even where you stay within that perfect circle, residential properties to the northeast of this sign's location, here I'm thinking that's right around Glen Echo. Basically, when you start going further east down Glen Echo away from the high school property, you get into some more residential zoning there, but it's at the farthest end. That is not visible on this light arc, thanks to the use of our light mitigation technology. And because of those locations being the R zoning, we believe that we still, number one, meet the public policy rationale that gave rise to this ordinance, which was keep billboard lights out of people's bedrooms, out of their homes, out of their residential dwellings, which is perfectly reasonable. We also believe that the reason we're able to meet that public policy and the overt rationale contemplated by both the attorney who drafted the law and the council member who brought forward the law, both of whom were in this room earlier today, is to make sure that whatever we do, we keep that light out. Fortunately, all these years later, more than 15, I believe, we're able to point and say this technology allows us to keep it out of those homes. The recent cases that you've heard of a similar type, utilizing that same hardship out of TCA 137207, which relies on that language about peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties. Following a strict application of this ordinance ignores the fact that the limited handful of R-zoned properties in reasonable proximity to this billboard are the YMCA, Hillsborough High School. And clearly those are not residences that we have to be concerned with. Furthermore, the hardship means that a law that is now, no disrespect, but is now outdated, as some of our laws are, impedes us from being able to do what would otherwise work. The property is zoned correctly for this use. There's nothing else other than that 1,225-foot barrier or limitation that is in play for us here. As a final testament to the support for this variance, looking north from this billboard, the Southern Land Building, which stands 18 stories in height, also blocks tons of light in any direction, regardless of where it might be going. Fortunately, there's no residential on that northbound stretch of Hillsborough for a long way. And looking southbound on Hillsborough, there's the 22-story Rosette Building, which stands tall enough to block tons of the light that would otherwise potentially be visible further down Hillsborough. With all of those projects in development and built now, with the use of our light mitigation technology and with the board's recent passage of cases on Jefferson Street, Massman Drive, and Galton Pike, utilizing the same hardship, we believe that we've demonstrated that this is an appropriate case for issuance of a variance from strict application of the zoning code. Naturally, we happy to answer any questions that members of the board may have. Thanks for hearing our case today.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. I have one question. I agree with you. The current code is outdated. And so, with this new technology and everything, maybe revision of this section of the code is needed. And having said that, so it's like a double-edged sword of that, because it requires distance requirement from all zoning and not the usage. So the reason I'm asking is in that section of the Green Hills area is dramatically changing and introducing the residential, like apartment unit on the SCR area. So with that, your light mitigation, this restoration, it looks like Rosette Building is within direct light mitigation of the projection. So how much light would that people who are currently residing apartment will have that effect from that billboard?
My understanding from my clients, Ms. Johnson, and I think everyone knows I'm an attorney, I'm not an engineer, so this is not an area of an expertise. But what has been represented to me is that some of the illuminated billboards up and down Hillsborough now will actually emit more light than the digital billboards that are put in place because of the type of illumination that's used. It's exterior rather than interior illumination. It's basically utilizing almost like horse blinders around the LED lights that create some of this digital effect. As such, we think that this is not only no worse than that which is already there, but in the instances of some of the billboards on Hillsborough, better in terms of the amount of light emitted.
How far are you? How many feet are you from? Is a billboard in a residentially zoned area? It's not, is it?
It is not. No, sir. It's on Hillsborough there.
How close are you to what's the nearest residentially zoned property? I know you're required to be like 1,200 feet.
I think that if I've got this right, 1 second.
I think Joyce said 250 feet.
250
Yeah,
feet.
that zone.
And again, that contemplates the entire full circle there. And so you've got properties down here as you kind of head toward Lipscomb, which many of you will recall is a preeminent preparatory institution in the South, along Warfield and some of these other cross streets that go back eastward. All of those properties are omitted from the arc of light that will be projected from our billboard. So while those are quite close, they're not within range of what the light will touch.
So
within that arc of what it will touch, you'd have to go all the way west to the YMCA property to bump into, I think, the first, and that's a RM20 zone property, and that's across the Hill Center And across Hillsborough Circle there on the backside near Bandywood.
Isn't there a building on Hillsborough that's south that's an residential?
I think this is the one that Ms. Johnson and I were just talking about, the 22-story building called the Rosette, and it does include residential uses. It is not residentially zoned, and therefore not part of our analysis under the current
It's
state
not
of the law.
residentially zoned, so it's not covered.
That's right.
And how often will the display change over?
A smart question. Under state law, the display may not change faster than every 8 seconds. And I'm going to make sure I've got that right, 8 seconds. That law's been in place for a number of years, even when I was here with you, in fact, at most BZA meetings. So although some companies do it at 10-second intervals, I think for the ease of the 6 units per minute of the sales, just easier for bookkeeping, most do it at 8-second intervals as contemplated under state law.
Okay, any further questions for Mr. Michael? Thank you, Mr. Michael. We appreciate it. We'll close the public hearing and discuss.
I appreciate the applicant's use of technology to isolate from the residential areas behind it. The digital billboard thing is fascinating to me because I know I feel like we've heard these before where in some circumstances, the digital billboards actually emit less light pollution than some of the standard ones that have the upward illumination that shines out. So, I think it's one of those situations where maybe the ordinance does not fit squarely with what the technology allows for.
Yeah, this is one where I see the technology has changed so much faster than the legislation that I think that's.
Because you can look at you can be beside a digital billboard and not even see the light coming off the side of it sometimes based on.
So I will just state my peace of mind. I do appreciate analysis, and I do understand the new technology, and this new technology will emit less light. However, I understand this, the Rosette building is zoned SCR, but it's residence. And it's direct line of light emittance. For that reason, I'm not comfortable voting in favor. But with current regulation, yes, it meets a requirement. And I think it may require our giving some variance because of the new technology. But as me personally, knowing this, not personally, but knowing there's an apartment and according to this Exhibit A, it's a direct way of light remittance. So I just can't bring myself to voting in favor at this time.
Well, I mean, and part of this is to me, they are so unintrusive to me nowadays. I know when they first came out, they were kind of blinky in, but I just don't find them. I do think the technology is way ahead. I also think this is asked for. I think Mr. Michael is representing Lamar, and they're in this business. I don't think they want to be. It doesn't really behoove them to be going around trying to get away with things and putting things out there that are going to cause problems. And they're a pretty well-known operator, so.
That's also, I live pretty close to it. That is a heavily lit area at pretty frequently, so I don't like the relative impact compared to all the other light sources around there. So, I get what you're saying, like there's residential towers and things, but if you're living in a tower on Hillsborough Pike surrounded by all that stuff, get some good blackout curtains and blinds and stuff like that. It's shiny. I'll make a motion that we approve the variance as requested based upon the unique circumstances identified in Title 13 of the code. I don't have the citation off the top of my head, but based upon the application of the ordinance with respect to advances in digital technology.
I'll second it. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes 4-1. All right, next case.
Okay, next case, case 2025-64. Mr. James Boble, 1721 15th Avenue South, requesting a variance in street setbacks for the legal use of fence constructed. Is the applicant present? All right, applicant's present. Any opposition present to this case? Chairman, seeing none, let me just go through a couple of things and talk through our fence variance here. The subject property, or properties, if you will, the homeowner actually owns two parcels, and what kind of gets lost in this, there is actually a parcel of land between the owner's residence and Wedgwood. And you'll see in a photograph of an adjoining fence, I think the applicant submitted for neighboring fence, where their fence is actually only on the parcel that the house sits on. So I've got a house, got the parcel facing 15th. There's actually an intervening parcel before you get to Wedgwood. So for me, their fence is not in violation of the code because it's not on the parcel that's affected by the road at all. So they're allowed an 8-foot fence at the property line, no problem. The issue with this gentleman's fence and a subsequent fence we've got across the street, same situation of sort of a strip of land between them. But this gentleman's fence, he owns both parcels. He's extended the fence onto this strip of property. And so when we cross onto that property boundary, the fence requirements from a public street kick in, which within the first 30 inches, within the first 10 feet of this property, requires a solid fence to not exceed 30 inches in height. And then once you clear that 10-foot buffer, you can go up to 6 feet. And so let me show you the photograph of the intersection.
Yeah, can you show us what you were just describing? Because I didn't quite follow you.
So in this, there's a strip of land, probably about where this pole sits.
Okay.
From there to Wedgwood is a separate piece of property that is not the same parcel that the gentleman's house sits on. So he owns two tracts of land. Here is one parcel, and then a separate vacant tract that has this fence on it.
Okay.
And so it's on this tract of land here where the fence violation occurs. So it's from the back of the sidewalk to probably about this pole, maybe slightly behind it. Within that band of area, that fence can exceed 30 inches if it's solid. So his wrought iron black fence, which you see in the foreground, is fine because it's an open fence. I can see through it. But it's the portion at which where we pick up at the end of that fence and go west on Wedgwood is at 6 feet, and it's solid. As you see, it's opaque, so it has to be down at 30 inches to comply.
How did this get here? Did somebody?
What happened is directly across the street, there was a house, I think, under construction or renovations. My inspector saw it, their fence being constructed, stopped, wrote them an abate. Of course, obviously, I tell my inspector, hey, when you go out there and cite this guy, take a look around. I don't want them citing one violation and let the other one go. And we discovered this one as well as the next one as I'm going west on there, which after further investigation, we discovered actually complies with the code, even though it looks very similar in his layout. Strangely enough, that gentleman to the west of this photograph, his strip of land he owns is much narrower than this gentleman's strip of land. So because he's on his house side of that strip of land, he's fine. It's just if he had brought his fence another foot closer to Wedgwood, he'd be in violation as well. And you'll see the applicant.
You've got me wanting to go look at these to figure out how that tiny strip of land came to exist.
I have no idea, sir. Mr. Murphy knows. I'm sure he's done the look into it. Yeah. Yeah. Wedgwood went from 2 lanes to 5 with 2 travel and a center. Some places a center turn. So that's kind of how this happened. This gentleman, no one complained on you, so I'll tell you that. But when my inspector went out and saw the guy across the street, I'd write him one too. So he filed first. So that's kind of why we're here. And Mr. Murphy put together, you guys have gotten a copy of some much better photographs than I took, I'll say, showing his situation. So with that, Mr. Murphy, no opposition. I'll turn it over to you for 5. I do, yes, sir. Yes. Okay. Yeah, let me pull that up for you there. Okay. Here we go.
Oh, sorry. I thought the green light was on. Sorry. Okay. Again, we're requesting a variance, as Mr. Hargis described, to permit the 8-foot fence to remain at the edge of the right-of-way. And the reason for this variance request is because of the topography change between the level of the house and Wedgwood, having a shorter fence that was compliant would provide no privacy for my client's property. A 2.5-foot fence would basically allow the people that are standing at the bus stop, which is located right in front of my client's property, and also going up and down Wedgwood, it would not provide any privacy. Also, there is a historic wall that's shown. If you look at the drawing that we submitted and with our package on Exhibit C, there's a historic wall, and I'll go to that end if you want to, Joey. You can go a couple more slides. Keep going. Wait, no, go back and let's play the videos real quick. So let's go back to this and play this video. Can you?
I don't have any audio.
Well, that's okay. Oh, you don't have any audio. Oh, too bad. Okay, play it. This is the cell tower, and if you look down the street, you can see the bus stop right there. And so that's right there outside my client's windows. This is the fence looking from Wedgwood. And one of the things that's important here is the fence is located a good bit away from Wedgwood. This shows you the slope and the wall. One of the problems that my client wanted to build the fence on the street side of the wall is they were having problems with people walking on the wall, and they were afraid people were going to fall and get hurt because, as you can see, the wall is not real flush to the ground, and they were afraid that people walking on the street would walk on the wall and fall. They had some problems with that, so that's a historic rock wall too, so they wanted to preserve the wall. Joe, if you go to this one, unfortunately, without audio, I'm losing the effect, but you can see all the people running in the Music City Marathon right outside my client's windows. And so having a lower fence would not provide any block for that. And so if we move it 10 feet back, because the property slopes so significantly down from Wedgwood, if we put a 10-foot fence 10 feet back from the right-of-way, it's still going to be so low that those people up on Wedgwood are going to look over it and look right into my client's house. So the basis really for this. The other issue, as you can see, maybe go one more picture, Joey, I think. Oh, go back one. Yeah, you can see there's the trash can right there. People drop trash and stuff like that all the way around the trash can. And so, again, my client was trying to provide a buffer or privacy fence, and because of this topography change between the elevation of the house, which is about 6 feet lower than the right-of-way, unless you've got a 8-foot tall fence, you're really not going to block. He's not going to have any privacy, and again, he's got a concern about the wall, and so I think I'm almost out of time. We're here to answer any questions.
Well, if there's a 6-foot increase in the grade, you're really only asking for a 1.5-foot variance because you get to start, as I understand it, Mr. Hart can correct me, the height goes from the grade of the home. So I think you picked up 6 feet. I mean, it's a good point about why you need it, but I think
we're happy to request a smaller variance. We just like to keep the fence as it is.
I want to kind of confirm, but that is correct.
Well, the fence, the code talks about from the side of maximum exposure is where the height should be measured from. Our office historically has applied that exteriorly. So in an instance where, like in this case, the gentleman's property slopes into his lot, we would take it from the outside of the fence.
I thought you always took it from the grade of the house.
You'll do it at grade where the fence sits.
So, but that means he would pick up 6 feet right there. If there's a 6 feet, his grade is 6 foot below the street, as I hear it. I'm just trying to figure out.
Right. You will pick up some, because the topo is to his benefit coming at him. The variance isn't as high. We've always just sort of do the easy way and like, hey, how the side facing out to the public, how tall is that? How far?
And again, we structured the request as to permit the 8-foot fence to remain. So that's really what we're after.
And this particular view is from the alley to the.
Yeah, you can see the rock wall right there, and that's the alley view. The other thing is, because this fence doesn't come right up to the edge of the alley or the edge of Wedgwood, the visual impact on people on the pulling out onto Wedgwood or pulling out from the alley, their view's not blocked, that's the reason for the fence, the low fence requirement is to not block the view. But if, Joey, go back to maybe the second picture. It might have been in the one you showed. The picture you had on your screen shows and it's also shown in my exhibit. I think it's Exhibit B. Yeah, if you look at Exhibit B in the package, this view right here, you can see how far back away from Wedgwood the 8-foot fence, opaque fence starts. So traffic coming up to that corner can see way down Wedgwood because it's a clear, it's an unobstructed view because of the wrought iron fence that is about 30 feet from the property line. So as a result, this really doesn't create any issues with visibility. So for those reasons, we would request the variance. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and discuss.
So in the spirit of efficiency, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the variance as requested due to the slope change and the topography change due to Wedgwood and the unique circumstances demonstrated by the applicant. I would argue justify a variance, and I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, next case 2025-65. Andy Beard, the appellant, David Henson, owner of the property 806 Hillview Heights, requesting a special exception from the street side and rear setback requirements on RM40. Appellant's requesting to construct 22 townhomes referred to the board under section 1712035 and 12020. Is there any opposition present for this case?
So I need to make I don't think core development is yet the owner of this, but Mr. Hargis handed me something indicating core development is, I guess, in discussions to buy this, and I'm involved in this.
Core was that the gentleman, the attorney to the east? Okay.
Is core development involved in this in terms of a potential buyer? Okay, I need to recuse myself because I'm in litigation with a subsidiary or affiliate of core, so.
Okay.
All right.
So the record reflect, Mr. Pepper's not participating in this case. All right. Vice Chair, we'll turn it over to you. Let me just go over a couple items, and correct one item in the applicant's submittal so as not to confuse you. The special exception request is actually only twofold, which is a street setback from both Hillview and Elliott streets. The required street setback in that zone district, we are in the UZO, is a 30-foot setback requirement. That is the red line which you see where my cursor's cutting through the structures there. They are requesting a 5-foot setback from future right-of-way. They're doing some dedications along Elliott to construct sidewalks, which currently don't exist. If you've ever been down Elliott, it's an unusual road in that it's got a center median So it's functionally two one-way streets. So if I'm on Hillview turning on Elliott, it's kind of a one-way street on the right-hand side of the lane. Then I've got this big median with trees, and the other way comes down the left-hand side. And you can see that denoted in this drawing here. There's a median that shows. So they're going to dedicate some additional right-of-way and build a sidewalk along Elliott. Hillview Heights as well, that they're dedicating a little bit of right away. What I want to correct though is that the applicant showed a rear setback being along this eastern property line. That is actually going to be a side yard. The current layout of the lots is currently 3 or 4 parcels. They're going to combine those. So in our zoning code, when we have issues where the overall site has streets of unequal length, the shorter of the 2 streets is deemed to be our front for purposes of determining what the rear setback is. So the rear setback special exception is going to be back here to the north, not to the east. There was an applicant who owns the adjoining properties to the east. I handed the chairman an agreement between he and the future developer over some items requiring some landscaping along those lines. That he had to leave. He had an issue, but he would like those incorporated, if this board approves this case, to include that agreement as a requirement of the order, which we would ask them to record against the property at the Register of Deeds office, so everyone's knows. So the request was correct. It was just the rear was shown originally along these. So covering that up, the only portions of these buildings would be any structures along within 20 feet of the northern property line. These structures originally had a setback along this. They are compliant with the code. There's only a 5-foot side setback requirement along this eastern property boundary, and the proposed structures do comply with that 5-foot setback. So this is a view looking at the intersection of Hillview Heights and Elliott Avenue. As you see, currently there's no sidewalk infrastructure. As part of this, they're going to improve the stormwater at this intersection and build new sidewalks as shown on the plan. The current site exists. I think there's a single-family home on this lot, and I think there's another just to the north. Those structures will be raised in this new building. This is a view along that Elliott Avenue, so it's kind of a unique situation. It's a little bit tiered roadway there with 2 functional one-way streets. So those will be the changes. These are views of the opposing corner on Elliott. This is just across that structure where my cursor is this building, and then just across the street from that is this structure, multifamily, so fairly similar. We do have recommendation from the Planning Commission of approval, and I think Councilmember Vo may have sent an email to the board. It came in late yesterday. I spoke with her yesterday afternoon, and she is supportive of this request. So that's what I've got. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys. To a gentleman, let me just say, looks a lot like our mayor, just a much taller version of. When I first got here today, I was like, "Oh, mayor's here," and I realized the mayor's not quite as tall as this gentleman. So, anyway, but sorry. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Hope I can live up to the look. So, as we were looking at the property, this is a currently zoned RM40. We're allowed to put 36 units on the property, which could be apartments or townhomes. The site has a fairly significant drop in topography from on the short end of the site. So we're looking at about 20 feet as you go from Elliott to the adjacent property that's closer to 8th. When we were looking at setbacks and analyzing what that would provide as a reasonable building to put on this property, it led us to think that it would be closer to some of our neighbors, which are large multifamily buildings, potentially with surface parking due to the size of the site. When we looked at the community character manual, we felt like townhouses of this style were a much more appropriate architecture for the neighborhood. These address the street. They put doors directly on the back of the sidewalk, and the neighborhood so far has been very supportive of a property like this, or of a typology like this. So with these setbacks,
with these setbacks that we're requesting, we would be able to comply with Metro Fire requirements for spacing between townhomes and this central alley that you're seeing here. And then we would be able to also provide parking with 2 spaces per townhome for each of these townhomes that we feel is a really great addition to the neighborhood. Also, as Mr. Hargis mentioned, adding sidewalks where there currently aren't sidewalks and keeping the street parking that's already existing on the property to make sure we're not adding congestion. Anything to that?
I'm Scott Desmees with firm landscape architecture and planning firm. The only thing I'll add is the garages that will be accessed from the internal laneway, so there will be no garages facing the public streets. And we're really looking at it as a sort of contextual project to match the scale of the existing, to some level, the scale of the existing single-family detached homes that are along the same side of the street. So I think we're, in lieu of doing a large multifamily building, these townhomes should be much more in keeping with the character of the existing homes along the street.
So with a special exception, it's not a variance, you don't have to prove a hardship, but you do have to tell us about how this project contributes to makes a pedestrian-friendly environment, if you can address that.
I'll start. It was important to the client as well as all the design team to include sidewalks along both sides of the public streets. We think that that's important, particularly because it's adjacent to the commercial area along 8th. So it allows for safe passage of the community and the neighborhood to move in and out of that neighborhood using sidewalks that are currently not there along that stretch. We also think the scale of that, the scale that we're looking for is a sort of brownstone scale, 3 stories along Elliott, and then steps down, and then on the ones on the back would be 3 stories. We think that scale is more conducive to a pedestrian sort of friendly experience. We've also planning to set the stoops back a bit to have a little bit of a planting strip at the front of those townhomes. So those are some of the things that I think about from a pedestrian standpoint and urban design standpoint. And then we also, this plan, there's a few little tweaks that we're trying to make, which is to provide like a direct access from the laneway right on to Hillview Heights. So as much pedestrian circulation as we can get is what is the goal for this plan.
Okay, and we see there was something submitted that you worked out with the neighbor to reduce any impact on their property. Is that right? Okay. Okay, any questions?
Yes. I think the submitted plan, unless I overlooked, I didn't see any landscaping buffer on the east side of the property. Would you be willing to provide a landscaping buffer on that section?
I believe so. I think the idea would be, when we're talking about the kind of right side of the screen here, is that the backs of those properties would have living space on that first level and create a bit of a courtyard condition, having a masonry wall up to the height that would be required by the landscape buffer, and then treating that landscape area as outdoor living space. So yeah, we would be willing to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well.
And I'll just say I drove by this because frequently go to the Publix. This is about a block away. It's my neighborhood grocery store. And well, sorry, is the public hearing closed?
No, it's not yet.
Oh, sorry.
I was asking for more questions for them. So we can close it though if you don't have a question.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that the topography coming from 8th Avenue up Hillview Heights is super steep. So I actually really appreciate they're putting a sidewalk in here because that's, if you've got cars coming in hot into the neighborhood, it's going to be good for the people that live there. And I definitely think there's a hardship with respect to the land itself, just based upon the slope of the road. So in furtherance of Ms. Davis's expeditious work on the last case, I'll make a motion that we approve the variance or approve the special exception with subject to the conditions set forth in the agreement between CITA Investments and Core Development dated. Well, there's not an effective date, but well, that's been submitted for the record. And was there a condition that you wanted on the, and then
Landscaping conditions.
with landscaping to be on the eastern boundary as part of the backs of the residences? They can be used as living space.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, and I think hopefully it was clear the public hearing was closed before the motion. Was it clear enough?
I think it's sufficiently clear.
Okay. So all in favor, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that's 4 in favor, 0 against. So it's
Okay, case is approved as noted. Ms. Bradford, if you don't mind, set that aside. I'll be sure to, and I'll ask the applicant.
I'm sorry, that was the clunkiest motion I've
That's
made,
okay.
but it's just,
If you'll just-
yeah.
yeah.
Here,
I don't
here
want
it
to
is.
lose that, so.
I'm trying to read a contract while I'm making a motion. It was not good. That was not my finest hour.
Ms. Bradford, if you can pass that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I've got one dated and with dates on it. We'll retain that one. I'll
Cool.
return that back to the applicant. Thank you so much. All right. All right. Our penultimate case is case 2025-69. Mark and Maniko Hoffman, the owners of the property at 2011 Hackberry Lane, requesting a variance from the height requirements in RS 75 to allow for build a new detached garage. The variances here are twofold, and I'll go over those. A little bit complicated. You don't see this of the two variances. We do have a height variance, but the other variance that will be involved here deals that in the urban zoning overlay, the accessory structures located to the rear of a house cannot exceed the topographical elevation of the principal residence. We don't get that too often because in a lot of places, the lots in Davidson County drop off in the back. This applicant's got the inverse, as you'll see in this photograph from the street. It's all uphill. So he has to have a variance to build essentially anything above 8 to 10 feet where they're locating this, because the house is just a story and a half out front. The issue that Moore brought up in this case is the overall height of the structure. He is in a contextual overlay district. Contextual overlay districts, strangely enough, permit accessory structures to be by right 27 feet tall regardless of the house height. So you're allowed a 27-foot tall accessory building by right. What they've submitted to us, at least on one end, is about 32'6". And if you take the grade change where the structure sits, it's about 31 and a half in height. So essentially what he's looking for is about a 5.5 foot variance in the overall height of the structure. We do count in our district's residential and two-family, we are measuring, and we do include the stairwell bulkhead in measurements. In a commercial district, we would exempt those bulkheads as height projections. They're allowed to exceed the overall height of the structure. So essentially, there are two variances involved. One is obvious on its face, but the second one would be the height variance. So are there any parties present in opposition to case 69? Seeing none. Gentlemen, you'll have 5 minutes to present your case to the board. And Miss, sorry, didn't see you there.
Hi, I'm Corey Brown. I live at 204 Devereaux Court in Franklin. I'm working with Maneko and Mr. Hoffman here on the proposed accessory structure that is the primary use of a detached garage, but also has a second story for storage and recreation. And the structure is further enhanced by a couple of different decks that they'd like to be able to use for relaxation. And so, as Mr. Hargis had mentioned prior, the request is to allow for the access to the roof deck, which includes that penthouse, which is above current zoning. And so we're hoping that the variance will understand that the visual impediment is going to be pretty minor. The existing topography of the lot is creating a hardship. And I don't know if I could submit to the board, but the other contextual thing that we wanted to present was the neighbor directly to the west has already completed a very similar program, and it seems to fit well within the character of the neighborhood. If there's any questions, of course, we'd welcome them.
Any questions?
Do you have a question? No, I'm still trying to, I couldn't process all the writing.
Yeah, it's
Just struggling to, I think I understand. Sorry, I don't have the light on, or the thing on. I think I understand there's a 5-foot, 5.5 feet variance requested, but I'm still not sure about the hardship. Is that
not sure about the what?
the hardship? I guess.
I think it's the elevation of the property. Is that?
Yeah, in order to achieve staying under the variance, we'd have to do a significant amount of excavation. And as we know, the bedrock's probably only a few feet below. So I think the destabilization and the disturbance to the neighbors to have to blast in order just to capture a few feet from the uniqueness of the.
So essentially, it's topography driven, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how tall is the structure?
30.
32.
31
But why
with the
couldn't it,
penthouse.
why wasn't it built at 27 feet tall? That's what was it built or?
No, it's not built.
Not built yet, okay.
No, yeah, this is proposed. And the second, it's only a 2-story structure, and the only part of the variance is the staircase enclosure in order to access a proposed roof deck.
Okay.
The bulkhead is really where you're picking up the 5 feet, is what you're saying. And you've got a 26 foot grade change.
From the front to the back, yes. An 8-foot grade change just from the back of the primary residence to the start of the base grade of the accessory structure.
Okay. Any more questions for the applicant? If not, we'll close. Then there is no opposition, as I understand it. Okay. We'll close the public hearing unless anybody has a question. Do you have a question?
No question.
We'll close the public hearing and discuss.
So I'm struggling with this one. I totally understand because of the topography, have to exceed the principal house. So that portion I have no problem. But the design seems like, 5-foot variance is because the applicant wants to build a balcony on top of the second story. And because of that, the staircase casing, whatever the specific word is, exceeding allowed a height of 27 feet. So I am struggling if that's the, qualify as a variance or hardship, because just wanting this specific design, with that design, applicant will be able to build the structure up to 27 feet. But because of this specific design, it exceeds the 5 feet. So that's my,
Joey, one question I had is the enclosure around the staircase, is that a fire code requirement that the staircase be? I'm just wondering if that's because obviously people could have like a rooftop deck on their structure.
I don't know necessarily. Let me say this. I'm not as familiar with the fire code as I am our zoning code. I have seen methods of getting to the rooftop in multiple ways, some that are a little bit recessed into the roof line with a hatch. I've seen, flat roofs that are just, like you think of a submarine hatch, just those, I get to the point is probably to get some protection from the weather, because inherently in some of those designs, you're going to create some leaking. For us, we have to count it because it's not specifically excluded from the height requirements like it is in commercial zoning. If this were RM or mixed use, that's totally fine. We would measure to the top of the parapet. That's 24 foot and some change on that. But in the residential R zones, we have to count anything that's under roof. The deck itself's fine, no problem. The deck is a permitted height obstruction, but the stair tower is not.
Well, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I do think that, it can be compliant without the bulkhead and I think there's a hardship for sure, but that is an extra 5 feet.
And if I could ask, if we could separate in motions the two items, so I can draft orders separately, if that's.
Yeah, well, I mean, with respect to the height, I think that's a very good point. So. I don't pick up in the application the setback variance, so.
Yeah, I also didn't see two
Or
requests.
a hardship for that.
Yeah. I only saw one variance request.
There's two, the overall height of the structure. The other is that this structure is not allowed in the UZO to be above the elevation of the home.
Oh, okay.
And like most instances, these lots drop off, but this one's the opposite. So,
Well, but if it's, I think, okay.
For us, any of that structure that's if I'm standing out at this elevation, if any of that exceeds the top of the principal residence, it's in violation. This is a little bit, the day I went out there was just pouring down rain, but this one it's a little taller. This home is on the left-hand side. So this one actually is dead on elevationally. It's just not as far, they don't have as much topo they're dealing with that these folks are.
I don't have a problem with exceeding the height of the primary structure, but I think I'm with Ms. Johnson on the 5 feet. I mean, that's just such a, so I'll make a motion that we approve it. Well, I don't have a problem approving it exceeding the height of the principal structure. I don't really want to deny the application. I think there's a way to do it. We can condition on it. We could give them a variance of, whatever
I think we
guess
can
they
make
don't need a variance if they're.
two separate motions in that case.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that but here's the thing. I don't know if they even need the first one if they're at 27.5, if they remove that bulkhead, are they still exceeding? I'm not sure that they're exceeding the principal. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. I'll make a motion we approve it in terms of it exceeding the principal height, the height of the principal structure. Let's get that, we can get that out of the way and move to the next one. Is there a second? Okay, so the vote is there that they have, because of the topography, the unit in the back can exceed the height of the principal residence. That's a motion. So there's a motion, second, all in favor. Okay.
Okay. Before you start your next, let me correct something I said. I'm going to look into the structure. They've definitely brought me evidence that building on the left definitely sits higher than the house in front of it in overall height. So I don't recall there being a variance for that lot. I need to look into it. It may have, the construction may have been at a time which that requirement didn't exist. So I'll need to look at that, but I appreciate them pointing out.
But that's the adjoining lot, right?
It is the adjoining lot. I just didn't want to confuse your deliberations with a misstatement on my part.
Okay, so we passed one. The other one we have to deal with is, are they entitled to a variance from the 27.5 height requirement?
So as I stated, I totally agree with, have to exceed the principal house, which motion we adopted. But what is the reason for variance going above 27 feet, other than desire and current design? Is there any way for the applicant to meet the 27 feet? That would be preferable, because without seeing any variance or hardship, they have to go higher. I am really having a hard time crossing that line.
Yeah, I am too. I'll make a motion that we deny the request that it exceed 27.5 feet.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, that motion to deny is passed 4-1.
So we'll have to design it where the staircase comes up.
So split vote, approved the elevation but denied the overall height. So this structure will have to be at 27 feet or less from average grade plane.
Before we start the next case, I have to leave in 15 minutes, so I don't want to get started on it. And
yeah,
so I'll leave it.
Let me just call real quick. Is there any opposition to case 70? Okay, we do have opposition.
Okay. I mean, I can stay and see if we get it done. I don't know what the procedure is here, whether if I know I'm not going to, I don't want to, I guess I can stay, and if I can't vote, I can walk out, and
Yeah, we still have quorum, right? We still have quorum?
okay, well, I'll stay as long as I can.
I
and
can
if we-
stay a little later. I will tough it out.
Right, so we have 10 minutes for each side, and
We will.
Joey's president.
Yeah, you better chair it. Do you mind? All right, thanks.
Can't make a motion to propose to the nose.
That's right.
Replace chairman.
I think that's fine. You're vice chair, so it
Yeah,
automatically
there you
rolls
go.
to you if he's not here, so. Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, our final case today, case 2025-70, 927 Kurtwood Boulevard, requesting variance from the height requirements in RS75. The applicant seeking to allow legal use of a detached garage issued by our department. Referred to the board under section 1712-060. The appellant has alleged jurisdiction under 140 item B. We do have opposition present. Let me go through our case first, and I'll kind of present the.
And it's going to be Madam Chairman, because I'm going to let her, and then I don't make it. She needs to do it, so.
The subject property is located at 927 Kurtwood. The issue is and I'll show you on the subsequent photographs, but as I was taught at a young age, when you're going to take responsibility for something bad happens, I should at least stand up in front of you to do so. So, long story short, an application was made by the appellants for 2 building permits, one for the home and one for the detached garage separately. We always process garages separate from homes. 2 reasons. One is to review the garage, make sure there's not an apartment in it, it's not too tall, meets the setbacks. In this instance, the examiner missed it, did not pick up that this building is 27 feet tall. Processed the application and approved it. In this zone district, however, all that's allowed is 16 feet. So as the zoning administrator, I'll take responsibility for this mistake. Unfortunately, they don't vest in a mistake by the government. So upon a complaint that we received that this building is too tall, we went out, checked it, came back in the office, looked at the drawings, and sure enough, yep, that's what we approved, but it's wrong. 16 feet's all that's allowed in this zone district. So we placed a stop work notice on the job. This appeal follows in suit. The stop work notice is just on the garage. The house can remain. So in the photographs, what you see, here's the home that's under construction. The building that's at issue, get my little pointer here. That's our building. You'll see it on the next photograph, but this is a view from the street. And then this is the structure in question. So it reached this stage. Is at the framing stage. I don't know if they called for an inspection or we stopped it before the inspection, but we did post a stop work notice on this building.
After it was permitted.
After it's permitted, exactly what they submitted. Sometimes we have builders, show us one thing and get out there and do something different. This is on us. We just flat out missed it. They submitted 27 feet. We should have denied it. But we issued it. We signed off and it went through the process. And
I assume that they stopped work as soon as the stop work order
oh,
was
absolutely.
placed.
Absolutely. They filed the appeal. Obviously, our mistake. I didn't charge. If we did charge you for this appeal, I'll refund it because it's our error. But they do not benefit from our error. They have to come to this board and seek approval. As a lawyer, there may be some case law that you get to a certain point, you're vested in it. I don't know. That may be discussions for the future, but yeah, so that's it. I've talked to the council member. She was here, told her what happened. This particular job has been a subject of not one, but 2 staff meetings over what not to do. So I got no excuses. We did it. So anyway, that's what we're here. So the neighbors may not know that, but that's the story. What happened. So I'll stand up and take responsibility for it. I am the supervisor. So.
And there's no liability on the part of Metro for demolition and reconstruction costs?
I don't know the answer to that question, sir.
Okay. Probably.
I'll leave that to your legal counsel, but there's a myriad of case law on construction and vesting, and I wouldn't want to venture an opinion.
There is I'm just a lawyer. I'm our lawyer.
Oh, I was going to reiterate what Joey said is that our position is that you're not vested in an erroneously issued permit.
It's not
So if the permit is issued erroneously or mistakenly, you're not vested in it.
So that's where we are. I'm going to post 10 minutes on this clock over here and turn it over to Mr. Dale and the appellant and let them talk through their side, and then we'll hear from opposition. And again, just a reminder to the appellants, you'll have a period for rebuttal however much you save of your 10 minutes. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Joey. Mr. Chairman, members of this board, I'm Roy Dale at Dale & Associates. I rarely, it's been years probably since I've appeared before the Board of Zoning Appeals in this unusual situation. This is Marissa Vittle. She is the property owner. If there's a bright side to this, is that this lot may have qualified for a variance. It is a very deep lot. It's like a 6-to-1 ratio. It's 260 feet deep and only 40 feet wide. And the difference in elevation from the front to the back probably is 20 feet. This building that's actually existing sits well behind this building, and so it sits well below the building. So it's not like it's up next to the existing, the house in the front. It's in the back, and it's lower than that. So it's not overwhelming the structure in the front. And I think that's one of the things you look at in situations like this. And another, I guess, would be the possibility or the concern that this would be converted into some type of a living use, like a dadu or something. And the applicants actually filled in an affidavit for Metro to ensure that that's not going to be the case. This will never be utilized as a dwelling. So the council member was here. She's very supportive of this. We did the notices. We didn't get back any kind of concerns. I wasn't even aware there was someone here that had a problem, so I'd like to listen to what they have to say. But I think this qualifies for a variance just based upon the fact of the shape of the lot and the topography of the lot and the placement of this existing structure. It's probably about 70% complete, and that's what my client's telling me. So obviously she has great concerns about this. And we just hope that you listen to our appeal and our reason behind where we feel like we should be deserving of a variance on this. And we appreciate your time and efforts. And I'm glad that you've waited here and not left. So since this is the last item, we appreciate that very much because we wouldn't want to have to wait another 30 days because there needs to be some more work on this just to dry it in. And there could be damages by just allowing this house to sit like this building to sit like this. So I'll just close it at that. Do you have anything you want to add? Now's your chance.
Yeah, I just, like Roy said, thank you for your time. This is my main source of income. I usually do historic renovations in East Nashville. So this is one of my first new builds, and I feel like I am very diligent to do my best and to add to the neighborhood. The house in the first picture that Joey showed you was one that I did before this was subdivided. So there was a ton of thought and a ton of heart put into this project. And it would be incredibly detrimental to me if I had to lose that second floor. This is one of my only projects this year. I'm a single mom of 6, and if I lose that second floor, it's going to affect my sales price dramatically to the point of me basically breaking even on this project. So it would be incredibly detrimental.
We'll just close at that.
Yeah.
And we're here to answer any questions if you have any, and we appreciate your time.
Doesn't look like there's any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And we have opposition, is that right? You can.
Okay.
The applicants will step out. We'll let the opposition come forward. Gentlemen, you'll have 10 minutes to present your testimony to this board. We'll reset your clock for you. And as you saw in the earlier appeal, I won't start it until you get into your testimony. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kanishka Badanda at 928 Virginia Avenue. I absolutely understand this is a unique situation, especially the way that it's been presented. The gentleman said that 70% was completed. That was not 70% once the stop work order was provided. Again, I live 6 yards behind this. And so I'm going to detail, and I sent a letter of opposition with further details. A majority of work on the structure was actually completed and worked on after I'd reported this to zoning and I'd spoken with permits. And so as we were in communication, as they were communicating back to me that they went back to the builder to say, you need to get a permit and it needs to be 16 feet or seek a variance, the build continued. I have photos that show that the builds continued, the house wrap, the roof, a large portion of that second floor, those 3 windows were not framed out in the time from when zoning administrator's office communicated with me that they contacted the developer. And so the hardship was self-imposed. Absolutely, I absolutely have sympathy that they were approved up front. However, the actual build out, the majority of it occurred after the zoning administrator's office contacted them to let them know to file for.
When was it? Let me excuse me. When was the stop work order entered? Do you know, Mr. Argus?
It was May 1st.
I'll pull it up just to see what we've got on our records officially.
April 17th.
Well, after it continued, your position is after a stop work order issued, they continue to build?
Yes, and I have an email thread
Did you contact codes about that? And
Yes, I did.
okay, and what did they do about it?
They sent an inspector on site, confirmed, and posted the said work order. And I have the email documentation around all of this.
Sorry, just to clarify, did the stop work, so there was did that all happen between this April 17th and May 1st, or was it after May 1st?
My communication with the permits office was in April.
Okay.
And then during that time frame, they kept me up to date, letting me know that they contacted the developer saying, hey, you need to file for a permit. Only 16 feet or under is allowed unless you file for a variance. And so at that point, they were told to file for a permit. Nothing, and it's in writing that nothing is approved at this point from their standpoint. And yet I looked outside and I watched them framing. The next day, I continued to watch them framing. I reached out to the office saying, hey, they've not filed for the permit yet. And they said no. And so I kept in communication throughout. And then I was notified that a permit had been filed, but not yet approved. And yet I'm watching out of my backyard, framing continuing.
What prompted you to notify the codes office?
It's a 28-foot structure that's 6 yards from my house. It has 3 large windows on the second floor that overlook both my backyard, my house, and several other neighbors' homes that we all have concerns. And I believe you received additional letters of opposition from neighbors. In addition to that, within the 4 adjacent properties directly behind this property, we all have accessory structures. They are all 16 feet. There are 2 buildings next to this house, all 16 feet. There are multiple properties in front, 16 feet. This developer did build a house next door last year. She knew that we were in RS 7.5 zoning. She and her builders should be fully aware of what the zoning restrictions. I'm just a general homeowner, and I understand that a 7.5 means 16 feet or under. So I do have sympathy that there was an overlooked portion from Metro early on. However, due to a concerned homeowner, concern for my privacy and also understanding our zoning, and one reason why me and many homeowners have moved to this neighborhood is for the privacy and for the character of this neighborhood, notified Metro, and Metro then did do their due diligence and followed up, and yet the building work continued. And that is where I have issue, and other neighbors have issue, and this is the area where it's a challenging thing because this incentivizes a developer to kind of proceed. It would have, yeah, please.
What percentage was it complete? Obviously, you thought with me, so they would say they were already 70% complete, and then you reported it.
Yeah, well, you know, I can show you this photo from April 14th. You can see that the first floor was there, and they had just started laying in framing up there.
And that was, you said that was April 14th?
April 14th.
Okay, and you reported it on April 17th?
Yes. Let me confirm my email. April 15th is when I reported it. So the very next day. And yet, as you saw and you heard the testimony, they're now at 70%. And indeed, I took a photograph today. It's completely house wrapped, built out. The underlayment for the roof is laid. The 3 windows are already framed out.
And while we're thinking about it, you'll have to email those photos to the same email where you emailed your letter.
Okay.
So they become part of the record.
Yep. Great. I will do that. And so I will recap. I'll just kind of go through. You may have my letter of opposition that really details out everything further. But, you know, it's one thing about the permit. But if we're looking at this like, okay, Metro caught in time, homeowner notified. If we're looking at it from a variance standpoint, I do want to speak towards that. It does pose a serious privacy concern for my family and my neighbors, since it does include those 3 large second-story windows that look directly into our backyards and our homes. We built our homes to have open visibility specifically due to the privacy given to us by our zoning standards. And simply, this 28-foot structure does not fit within the surrounding environment. I noted all the properties around us all have 16-foot or shorter accessory structures. This structure, while it may not be visible on the Curtlewood side, it is very visible both from all the properties behind it and from Virginia Avenue, the parallel street. At 16 feet, none of this would be an issue. So we have simply submitted letters and are seeking for this structure to follow the same zoning regulations we all have, simply in order to uphold our neighborhood's consistency and character. So in summary, the majority of the developers' hardship was actually self-imposed for continuing the build when they were told otherwise. And yet, regardless, it is still less of a hardship than what would be placed upon the surrounding neighbors for decades ahead. She is told others in the neighborhood she is planning to list it for $1.7 million. She is not going to be living in that house. I would have much more, and I had also reached out. I'd sent an email to Ms. Biddle to have an open dialogue and to share concerns. We did not receive a response back. We are the people in this neighborhood who are going to feel this for decades ahead. She is going to sell it and can move on forward. So I do believe that we, the neighbors, have the greater hardship than the developer in this matter. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Questions? No? Okay, then we'll bring back the.
Sure.
Oh, there is a question.
There's another opposition. Did you?
I think you stated most. My name's Thad McCall. I live at 912 Matthews nearby. I don't have a lot to add other than I think they build beautiful places, and that's great. I watched the deconstruction and construction of the house next door that she mentioned as they systematically took it apart and then built it new. And I don't know if that was to work around some code type of things or not. And then it was sold as a rehab. The only thing that's original to it is the cement on the side porch, from what I understand, new foundation, everything. So I guess I just have a concern, especially as I hear people in real estate around us like, hey, just do what you need to do. Codes might not check you. And that bothers me as a homeowner in the area. Are we abiding by the law? Are we trying to work around things, or are we actually going by the intent of the law? So that, to what you said, it shouldn't be a surprise. Yes, it slipped through, but it shouldn't be a surprise that this was a requirement already. So, thanks.
Okay, any further questions?
In the immediate area, have a detached
Very few detached garages. We have accessory structures. So offices, sheds, storage, and there are carports. That's right. And yeah, 4 directly behind this, they're all 16 feet or shorter. 2 next to it, 16 feet or shorter. Multiple directly on the opposite side, all 16 feet or shorter. Thank you.
Okay, if you can take a seat and we'll call back the appellant.
Can I add to my testimony based on the gentleman's testimony there? I want to clean up timelines for you. The initial complaint looks like was received by our office was April 17th. And this looks like it was telephone call because of how it's coded. But the inspector went out the next day and stated there was no issue to be found because the garage was listed on the permit. And that is correct. The garage does show on the permit. And I think probably the gentleman called back a second time. We went out on the 29th of April, posted a stop work notice on May 1. But I was just looking at the permit itself for the house. And I'm going to share with you on the screen over there. This is the site plan that the applicant submitted for the construction permit on the house. and it does indeed show that garage on it, which is why the inspector, when he first went out there, was like, it's on the permit. It's fine. We require detached garages to be separate permits. So that second trip after the complaint is why we post a stop work notice saying, hey, come get a permit for the garage separate from the house. And that's what you see in the record now as a separate garage.
And I think the reason we asked it is there was no notice of until that second visit and that stop work order was posted.
It would have been the second visit, because I think the inspector went out there on the 17th of April and said, oh, no, it's on this is what the permit's for. So that second visit was like, no, we need a separate permit for the garage and it's too tall. That's when that stop work notice got posted. It looks like May 1st. And I'll add his pictures dated, so we've got a record of it.
So, yeah, just as far as the timeline goes, what Joey said was true. The second we got a stop work order, we stopped. We called the inspector out. He looked at it and he said everything's fine. And then he came out again, and it wasn't until May 1st. And in that timeline, we made a lot of progress with this structure. So, to my knowledge, the numbers that he gave as far as how many accessory units are out there, that I don't think there's that many at all. I also will say that as far as what he said, I told a neighbor I was going to sell the house for. I never said that. It would not be worth that. It's going to be worth substantially less if I have to take the second floor down. The house beside it, which is very comparable to it, I sold for $900,000. The furniture was wrapped up in it for $30,000, but it was a $900,000 house. So I have no idea where that story of 1.7 came from. And right now, my budget and my sales cost is based on having the conditioned 700 square feet in the second floor. I try so hard to go above and beyond and do things so correctly with my work. So the accusation that I'm trying to skirt the law or go around codes is really hurtful. I mean, this is my life's work, so it's hurtful.
I'll point out something else that will probably make a difference. As I said, these are long, deep lots, and so the people that are here that are in opposition, they have a very long, deep lot too. Their lot's 260 feet deep as well. So the front of their parcel to the front of this parcel is over 520 feet. So the principal structures sit fairly close. So there's a large difference in distance between these structures. The rear yard setback is 20 feet. And I'm sure this building is sitting no closer than that, and the rear yard setback on any adjacent parcel would also be 20 feet. So it's not like within 6 feet of each other. That's not the case. At the minimum, it'd be 40 feet. And that would be 40 feet between this accessory structure or garage or whatever and another accessory structure. The distance between this building and the primary structure on the adjacent lot is a great distance, over 100 feet. So I just want to point that out because I think that would make a difference to you as you consider a variance based upon conditions and topography and shapes of lots and depths of lots.
Okay, anything else to add?
Unless you have other questions. I mean, I think, Marissa, she's upset because she does do exactly what she's asked to do. Actually, when the inspector came out on April the 18th, it was more of a verification that everything's okay. It was a non-issue at that point in time. So it took a second visit, and during that period of time, obviously a lot of work's been done. And so that's all we have to say. We're here to listen, and we appreciate your time and efforts. Thank you so much.
Any further questions? No, then we'll close the public hearing.
Do you want us to?
You're welcome to stay, or
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I know we get these from time to time. No shade cast upon people who make mistakes. It happens. But I think in that circumstance, I have an exceedingly hard time putting that on the property owner and the person who has done what they were supposed to do to build the project, submitted and I think the statement that was there were some questions, somebody asked questions, and I think we all kind of were getting around the point of, was there sort of a notice period where you had work that happened between notice and a stop work? And I think that, to me, that based upon what the zoning administrator said, that there was a statement from the inspector that it was compliant with the permit. And so anything that happened between when it was reported and when that stop work order was issued, I just don't think it doesn't seem to me to be some sort of self-imposed issue. So I'm inclined to make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
Is there a second on that motion?
Okay, I just want to add, though, the question of code's mistake is distinct from the variance. So if a variance is granted, there has to be a hardship.
Right.
And you have to independently find grounds for a variance.
Oh, right. Yeah, I would say that the grounds for the variance are based upon the unique circumstances and the shape of the lot that warrant approval of this.
I don't think there was a second. Does anyone want to change their mind? So that motion doesn't fail, it fails. So I guess I'll make a motion to disapprove the request. Any seconds on that? Or do we all just want to chat? I think we may have jumped to motions too fast, so.
Yeah, we can chat.
Let's chat.
All right, so there was a motion and a second, right? Did you second?
I did second.
Okay, so then you can discuss.
We can discuss the motion.
Well, I didn't see anyone acting, so,
I did second, but.
okay, didn't realize
You can
that.
always discuss the motion if you want to keep
Yeah,
it.
we'll discuss the
before-
motion since there's a second. How's
Okay.
that? Yeah. Or you want me to
No, go
withdraw?
ahead. We can discuss it. I'm still mulling. I did second, but I'm still mulling.
Okay.
I do think it's hard, right? I think Mr. Bradford made a very excellent point, right? I think he made an excellent point. Codes put this erroneously on the same permit. They're not supposed to do that. The builder relied on that and started building, right? Well, I looked at the neighborhood. I don't know if this lot is unique enough compared to the other lots for it to be like a variance. Does that make sense? I guess the only thing that's gnawing at me, and I'm still listening, so I'm willing to change my mind. And if somebody made another motion, I might change it again. So I just want that to be clear because I think this is tough. It's like there's two arms here, right? Like there's a reason why they set that limit in that zoning district because then there's an expectation of the context for everybody, right? So everybody lives in the same sandbox, there's the same rules, right? And so if you have one that's so much different than everything else, then it does, I think, negatively impact other properties. However, I don't think, codes did ratify that behavior, right? So that's the rub. I will say though, because, this is Biddle Enterprises and the builder mentioned that they built the one next door. I don't know, like isn't this person sort of a sophisticated person and maybe have on some level and did have notice, even though I know that codes said yes. But I mean, it's like I'm a lawyer and I can give you the elements of tort. I don't even practice torts, but I just generally know that because of what I do for a living. Because so that's all I'm saying. Like, was there any sort of like constructive notice based off of what? This isn't somebody who this is their first house, so they wouldn't know, and they're just relying. Like, she mentioned in her testimony that she's renovated a lot of houses and that she builds another house. So that's the only part that's struggling. Like, I don't know. Like, did you have some awareness that maybe this wasn't? Maybe that this was too tall and maybe. So that was my only thing. But again, I'm still listening and I'm willing to change my mind because, like I said, I think Mr. Bradford made a good point.
So what I am struggling right now is, of course, because of the circumstances, there are so many emotions. But I want to put emotion aside and follow the laws and regulation. Mm-hmm. And so I want to first clear out, I really appreciate, our legal counsel, that mistake by administrator itself is not a variance. So, in this section and in this area, the height is 16 feet. And yes, indeed, court made mistakes, but in order for the applicant to convince us what the variance request is, have to show us hardship. I really don't see any hardship looking at this lot. It seems like this lot was originally one lot, but was able to build in additional primary house and accessory dwelling. So that itself is not a hardship to me. So I really don't find the reason to grant extra 12 feet on top of allowed height. So that's where I am. I really sympathize and sorry for the mistake of our zoning administrator. And I'm sure they had really great conversation and those things will not happen. But just because zoning administrator made mistake, we really cannot grant,
Yeah, in the past, I know when we've heard these, we've relied upon the unique and exceptional circumstances provision. So I think that while there isn't, there may be a question of looking at the hardship in terms of one thing or the other. We have on structures that are as built as this one, taken the approach of approving them based upon what's been submitted and built. And so I have a really hard time not doing that here because I think as Ms. Davis very eloquently pointed out, that we should be able to rely upon a permit that's issued by the government that, if we have to take the sort of question of looking at the context around us versus the document that's stamped and issued that applies to the specific piece of property that I'm working on, I have a hard time with it. I mean, I think that, if I were representing this person and the variance were, denied, I'd be looking at a pretty solid detrimental reliance action against Metro on this because detrimental reliance claims against the government are harder, but they're not impossible, and they are allowed in certain limited circumstances. I think there's a very strong argument to be made that this person can and did rely upon a permit that was issued. So, as I see it, we have an avenue through the exceptional circumstances to, as representatives of the metropolitan government, help avoid a potentially protracted and problematic situation, that it is supported by the code through a provision that allows a variance in the circumstance. And so I think it would be a prudent and responsible choice on our part to approve this structure as it had been placed on the permit that was issued, albeit erroneously, but that the applicant does, I think, have a strong claim that they relied in good faith on something that codes put out.
Any further discussions or motions? We have a feeling it's may not be decided today, so we need some kind of action.
So if you would,
Can I have just one question I had?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
maybe somebody can answer this. Why is it so tall if it's not gonna be used for living quarters? That was one thing I wondered, it's not gonna, there's, the applicant mentioned that they found an affidavit saying that they won't use it for that kind of purpose, and I was like, so that was one thing I also wanted, I don't understand, but again, I don't know if we're gonna resolve today, but that's something that is outstanding in my mind, is why is it this tall? So that was it's not, I just.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that's, in my mind, that's kind of not really a factor, I guess. I will say, at my house, our garage and the master bedroom sits directly above the garage and is the exact footprint of it. The garage has a very tall ceiling that was built with the intent of being able to hang stuff on the walls, yard tools and things like that. and our bedroom has a vaulted ceiling. I mean, you could have a vaulted ceiling potentially on like even above the garage, you could have a vaulted ceiling within just a regular office space or a room or something, especially if you're going to have, I don't know, skylights or something like that. So I'm not a design person. I'm just speaking from what we have at our house. It's just a garage with a room on top, but it's definitely feasible. Now, I don't park in my garage right now because it's filled with children's things, because they don't tell you that kids take up a lot of space. But, conceivably, hypothetically, if I ever clean my garage, it's got a high ceiling on it. So I can understand why that would be something that would be a appealing component.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, what Member Bradford said was which section of variance, requirement you can state to meet to grant that our court administrator's mistake.
It's actually in TCA. It's in state law, so it's in Tennessee Code. And I'm trying to pull up the code section right now, but Mr. Michael cited it earlier when we were. Joey, do you know off the top of your head which section of Title 13 that's the unique and exceptional circumstances?
13.7.207.
Yeah, it's
Ours is 174180. The only difference that I'm aware of between the two, we have an item D, addition, changes, non-conforming uses, and the state code does not.
Yeah, it's 20 TCA 13.7.207.3, right in the middle. It's that by reason of other extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition of such piece of property, where the strict application would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to, or exception or undue hardship upon. So I think that the state law, which is, we can follow state law in this circumstance, provides sort of opportunities and a legal basis to allow this to move forward.
Yeah, but you are citing the reason is because our court administrator issued a permit with a stamp, not the actual property itself, correct? Because our legal counsel advised us the mistake by court administrator does not qualify as one of the hardship.
I agree,
so
but
I am struggling to.
Well, I agree, but I actually think that the way that TCA 13.7.207 is drafted actually does allow for unique circumstances beyond, beyond that the mistake itself is not the basis for giving the variance, but that the circumstances would be the basis for giving the existence of a bona fide permit that's been issued by the codes department to build the structure there. That's where we've relied upon these in the past to allow that to exist. And so, I mean, I think state law gives us the authority to do it. Ms. Mickles may disagree with me on that, but
I mean, if that's what the board wants to do, and if they want to, construe the statute in that way, you can do that. But you just want to make it clear on the record that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the code itself references exceptional topographic conditions as separate from extraordinary and exceptional situations. So I think it kind of contemplates both a property, something related to the actual property itself, as opposed to other circumstances that warrant granting of a variance.
Is there any other discussion, or should we try another motion just to keep
I think
things
we're still,
moving.
there's actually a motion, I think, that's pending that you
Oh,
made.
gosh.
So we're discussing the motion. So,
Your motion's still up.
Thank you for keeping me in line.
sorry, that's my
You're supposed to leave
recommendation.
at 4:45, so
Yeah.
open grace.
Let's just vote on this one and then we can figure it out. It was to
Okay, yeah.
deny the variance.
Okay, so all in favor of denying the variance, raise their hand. Okay, there's 3, all opposed, 1, so 3-1 to deny. So
What happens next, for all the parties in the room, we'll be back in this room on August 7th, same time, 1 o'clock. It'll be at the front of our agenda. Public hearing is closed. Both the applicant and opposition talked to me about, hey, what if we revise the plans? I'll let them submit that should they want to, and then you guys can suspend your rules and see if you want to look at a revised plan. So, but until then, we're kind of where we're at. So, all right, with that, board stands adjourned. Thank you all very much. We'll see you all back here August 7th.
Verified, it's over.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.